Mike,
hey, what?
We're on.
Oh, we're on. Okay, hello. Good morning. Well, it's 7:03. Crikey, nearly. That's the latest we've been, isn't it?
Yeah,
really. I'm sorry. Look, I was in the bathroom. I had to queue up because there's a couple of people washing the windows here, and I couldn't get in for a while. Hang on, what's going on with my tie? So my tie's not quite straight. I didn't get to put all my makeup on either. And as you can see, my hair is as beautifully prepared as ever. I was hoping to get some cold water as well, because I've had hardly any sleep, right? I'm getting sick to death of this bloody weather. Not because I don't like the hot weather. I do like the hot weather. Now it's even more unstraight. What are you doing?
It's nice.
Is it? Anyway, so I just couldn't sleep last night at all. I think I've had about 3 hours sleep. Wake up this morning, I was just like, oh, I feel like I haven't slept at all. I put it on snooze. I never put it on snooze.
Taste test of cold water.
It's with cold water, right?
What's it like?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant.
That's so good.
You ready for the show?
I think so. Sorry. So apologies for a slightly late start. But it's not easy. And I know many of you will be waking up this morning feeling a little bit tired, distressed. Many of you, you know what I keep doing? Keep meeting people who've got ideas for me about how to get an air conditioning machine.
Yeah.
Everyone has got advice. It started the other day with Pooch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got one on eBay. Yeah. Well, clever clogs over there, right? Yeah. I met somebody for a drink yesterday, and she was telling me that she's like, "Oh, I've got this really great one. I'll send you the details." And my fitness trainer, he's the same. He said, "Oh, I've got this." He sent me. I've got 5 pictures now on my phone of things I can buy, which of course I haven't done because I never buy them. Every year I say I'm going to buy one, and every year I don't. And the problem I've got, and I'm not particularly trying to make out that I'm a special case here, but the problem is that I live at the top of a building, and the sun beats down on the roof of that building. And by day 2 or 3 of a very big heat wave like this, my flat is actually hotter inside than outside. So when I walked out the front door this morning, I was like, oh, it's actually cool. And I'm really not complaining about the heat because I love the heat. I don't mind the heat. I just when it's that hot, I just can't really sleep. That's all. Anyway, so in honour of summer and in honour of the fact that all the water companies are now moaning that they're running out of water, we thought we'd do a little poll on ice lollies because we were having a little chat this morning, myself and Pooch, about sort of reminiscing, if you like, about ice lollies. I don't really eat them much anymore. What's your favourite ice lolly? And I know many of you have already found this to be a controversial subject, right? So many of you are already arguing, why haven't we got Coronation Street, whatever it's called on there? Why haven't we got, Coronation Chicken. Why haven't we got 99s? Why haven't we got Magnums on there? Why haven't we got Soleros? Can we just see the breakdown again? So what's your favourite ice lolly? Is it a Zoom? Only 9% for the Zoom. That's low, right? Pooch's favourite. Is that a Fab? 26%. Strawberry Mivvy, come on!
No.
That's my favourite, right? 44%. Because you're going to say it's because everybody's the same age as me.
No, it's because you're a psychopath. That's why you like strawberry Mivvy.
I'm a psychopath. A twister. 20%. I'll tell you the truth. The reason I used to like strawberry Mivvies is I was not a big ice cream fan as a child because I had Scottish teeth and my teeth were actually quite sensitive. And so if I put really cold things on them, it wasn't a pleasant experience. So the thing about strawberry Mivvies was you could suck the outside strawberry flavour and then get to the ice cream inside, by which time you'd sort of acclimatise your mouth to what was coming. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so actually not so much of a psychopath as a scientist in many ways. So anyway, feel free to add your particular persuasion to the list. How about this from Barry Island? Orange made or a jubbly? You remember the jubblies?
Yeah.
They came in like a triangular sort of shape, didn't they? It was like a pyramid, and you'd sort of suck the ice out of it. Anyway, I think it's time we started talking about some serious, proper business rather than ice lollies. It is, of course, time for the one and only Mr. Stephen Barrett, our favourite barrister. Stephen, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
Without wishing to trivialise the summer and the weather and all the terrible things that are going on, do you have a favourite ice lolly?
I knew I'd get that. First point I want to make is that I know strawberry Mivvy as a strawberry split. So I've never heard it referred to as a Mivvy. And that must be an age thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Rebranded.
Well, you're still in the full throes of youth. That's why.
This must be like a marathon Snickers thing. This is just Opal
yes.
Fruits, Starburst.
Yeah.
Something must have happened, and it got renamed the Strawberry Split. But
Yes.
on your list, I'd go with a Twister anytime.
Really? Okay.
And I,
Wow.
having a small child, I now eat more ice lollies than I otherwise would. It's one of the joys of parenthood is that if you're buying ice lollies for others, you may as well get one for yourself.
Yeah.
And I usually would go for a Twister.
Well, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was going to a place called Bedgebury, which is on the Kent-Sussex border, which is one of those kind of, wild parks where you take your children and the dog, basically, for a Sunday afternoon walk around. And they used to have an ice cream van. And the dog would get one as well, because the dog would sort of, the guy in the ice cream van would look at the dog and go, he's lovely. And you literally give him a cone with an ice cream on it, and he'd literally eat the whole thing in one go, which for dog owners is brilliant to watch. Anyway, listen, that's enough of that frivolity. Let us talk instead about our king and mentor, my Lord Tony Blair, who seems to have raised his ugly head into the parapet of joining in on how Keir Starmer's making a complete dog's breakfast of running Britain.
Yes, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. Tony Blair has resurrected his head. He has a damn cheek, Mike, an absolute damn cheek, because the man is structurally required for everything that's happening in the country, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
He created all 99% of the laws that are now breaking our system were made under him. Don't get me wrong, the Conservatives did a bit too, but most of it was done under him. So to come along now and say it's almost perverse. He goes to Keir Starmer, sort of, oh dear, you're not very good at running this system that I built that no one could actually run. It's just like you wrecked the place, man. You trashed everything.
Well, worse than that. He deconstructed it and then rebuilt it in his own image, creating all sorts of different establishment sort of entities. And now he's surprised that it's all gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, creating a system that literally no one can govern. And because he destroyed accountability. He effectively destroyed, he was like an anti-democrat. He destroyed every means of democratic accountability. I mean, I got to interject yesterday about this appalling rape case with its appalling sentence. But all of that, at the heart of that is Tony Blair's approach to systems of government. His approach to taking away direct accountability, taking away democracy, putting power in the hands of unelected, invisible committees. It is communism, but it's also incredibly stupid. It's not enough to simply sit there and say communism is a bad form of government. You must point out why communism is a bad form of government. And it's a bad form of government because it has these completely unaccountable committees in charge of really quite important things. And when they do something absolutely stupid, the best thing, and even Keir Starmer realized that this rape case outcome is absolutely appalling. And the most he can do is ask Lord Hermer if he'd please possibly ask the Court of Appeal if they'd please possibly maybe do something. That is a broken system. Right. Fundamentally broken system, and that's what we live in, and Tony Blair built these broken systems.
Yes, because they finally worked out that actually if you do have the scales of justice, as indeed we look at above the Old Bailey and the blindness of the justice minister, if you like, they've suddenly gone, oh, should we give more credence to the perpetrators than to the victims? Should we give more help to the perpetrators than the victims? And they've suddenly gone, oh, maybe that's not such a good idea, because that's where we are. We've now got the scales of justice going like that, where in fact the perpetrators get treated better than the victims.
Well, not if they're Lucy Connolly, Mike.
Indeed.
And again, that is the point. We live in a highly politicized, socialistic, communist system where the aim of the system is to punish political dissidents and those who disagree with the system, and actual criminals are treated like naughty scamps or vague bother. The strong suspicion is that they actually quite like the active criminals, because the active criminals keep the rest of us mildly terrorized at any particular time. Right. And we do have to talk about how society is trying to keep us permanently scared. I hope you've got a water bottle there with you, Mike.
Well, I don't know whether you saw our little ditty that we did the other day, where we basically made fun of Stella Creasy, who went and did her entire as social media output. We put one of these next to me, and I was like, right, this is what I've got. We're going to take it on the tube because we must carry the world's biggest water bottle around just in case we pass out. And she was literally saying things like, if you run a business, please try and create some shade for people so that they can come in and rest in your place of business. You know, never mind them actually buying anything, never mind actually promoting any sort of, you know, commerce of any kind. But no, just make sure that you're rehydrated at all times. It's so pathetic. And in fact, what's his name? Sadiq Khan. Have you got that picture, Pooch? Yeah. Sadiq Khan, by the way, has done this all over London, apparently. Drinking fountains for London. The Mayor of London has partnered with Thames Water to install a network of more than 100 drinking water fountains in busy and accessible areas of London. And he makes out like this is his great idea, that he's literally made the water from thin air, and he's gifting it to us because he's such a benevolent character. And it's like, well, you're probably paying the Thames Water people quite a lot of money with taxpayers' cash. So thanks anyway, and treating us like complete and utter serfs.
Well, if they're Thames water, then they'll leak anyway. So that's all.
And it'll taste a bit like sewage. And it'll taste a bit like sewage, no doubt, as well, right?
But it's ridiculous, Mike. We haven't built any new reservoirs in goodness knows how long. And in the meantime, we've increased the population between at least 20 million, if not more. And we're sat here going, oh, we don't have enough water because something magic sky gas. And actually, it's because we didn't build any reservoirs.
No, and you know very well why we didn't build any reservoirs, because apparently it's not very environmentally friendly, which I still struggle with. How is it not environmentally friendly to have a body of water in a place where you need water supply?
The communists aren't working from rational principles. The communists basically hate everybody. Yeah. They are in essence Malthusian. They go after this guy called Malthus, who's from about 150 years ago, if not longer. And he just wanted to depopulate. He wanted the human population to reduce. Once you realize that they're all Malthusians and they just want the population to reduce, you start to understand why there are water shortages, why they use completely stupid excuses to not build reservoirs, why they use completely stupid excuses not to build a nuclear power plant. You know, for example, they just want shortages. They want it. They want depopulation. These are deeply unhappy people, Mike. I mean, I don't want anyone to think I have pity for them, but these are obviously deeply unhappy people. They should never have been allowed anywhere near power. We were fools to allow them near power. They've been in power for 30 years. Everything's falling apart. Can I politely suggest that we remove them from power?
Yes, because not only do they want to reduce the numbers of people in the country, they're not very good at that either, because they keep allowing more people into the country, even at the same time as trying to reduce the population. So it's a sort of a double-edged sword as well, isn't it? Because yes, they want to reduce the population that we have, but they also want to introduce a new population from somewhere else.
Because they're not a rational ideology. They're just a collection of irrational beliefs. And one of their irrational beliefs is that it would be racist to not let people into your country. So they have to let people into our country, despite the fact that is an obviously stupid thing to do. And we don't give a toss what race the people coming into our country are. We just can't keep having people in our country. Because I think it was one of your tweets just points out, we just don't have enough houses. We don't have enough. We don't have infinite supplies of everything. And I can already tell, because I'm a country boy, we are already in a drought, Mike. You can tell if anybody who looks at the soil and looks at the trees, to my eyes, I've not seen the trees this distressed in years.
No.
You know, we are going to have a massive water crisis. And if we'd only built some reservoirs, we would be able to get around this, because you build a reservoir for when the drought comes. You don't pretend that by controlling the magic sky gas that there will never be a drought again.
I mean, I was told yesterday something quite interesting, and I have no way of knowing if it's true, but I intend to investigate, that for some reason the magic sky gas people decided to do away with all of the female trees in London, because I've suffered for some reason, and I'm trying to figure out why. This year, for the first time in many years, I've had really, really bad sort of allergies and hay fever, right? And apparently a lot of people are getting it. One of the reasons being that some genius in City Hall said, if we get rid of all the female trees, that will somehow improve the air in some way, shape or form. So we've now only got male trees, which are constantly now searching for the ability to pollinate with a female tree, and are not finding any. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know whether that would have any kind of scientific basis on why I keep sneezing, but, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. It's the sort of thing you would expect, you know, people like Sadiq Khan to suddenly do.
Well, it's been a really bad year in London for plane tree fibre. So the plane trees shed this fibrous material. It sits on the ground. they think it's going to wash away. It doesn't wash away. Then it dries out and then it goes back up into the air. If it gets me either at the back of the throat, so I can't talk.
Yes, I get that.
In my nose, so I start sneezing, or in my eyes, and I start crying. It's just a monstrous thing. What we need is polite, nice gentlemen who come along with shovels and pick it up and put it into bins and carry it away. But that would be considered an old-fashioned solution. So imagine what we instead have is some creative AI program that's currently working out how to deal with AI with plane tree fibers, because we don't.
Or you get a guy with one of those leaf blowers where they just blow it all around. It's 55 different directions. And it doesn't go anywhere.
Exactly. We refuse to do basic common sense things like build a reservoir.
Yeah.
And instead we'll have, 20 million pound advertising campaigns to get people to drink less water, as though that was sensible. Although obviously Stella Creasy would not approve of that, because, I'm sad to say to Stella that I have moved from my bedroom into my library, and I've not brought a water bottle with me. So I'm obviously some sort of deviant.
Well, are you sure you don't want to take a little time to go and get some water, just while during this conversation you don't suddenly feel weak and dehydrated? Because, we want to make sure that we have a duty of care to look after you, Stephen.
You don't. I'm fed up with this, because what it is really at its heart, it's always masked as care. But really what it is control.
Yeah.
Control and fear.
Yes.
And telling grown-up humans who are more than capable of functioning without carrying a water bottle everywhere, that they need to find shelter if it's the sun, as though we're so stupid that we just stand there in the glaring heat without considering that maybe we could walk, move a few meters into the shade. As though that's somehow not something that we would do.
I know. I was in Borough Market yesterday, right, meeting up with somebody I hadn't seen for a long time. We sat outside in the shade under an umbrella. It was beautiful. It was summery. It was Mediterranean. It was fantastic. I could have sat over there where there was no shade and got myself burnt to a crisp. But you know what? I chose not to do that because I didn't want to get my face burned off. I was quite capable of making that decision on my own. I didn't need to be handed a piece of literature which told me to sit in the shade, and I didn't have to be told to drink water as well. It's like, leave me alone.
Yeah, this is what C.S. Lewis warned about. The worst type of tyranny is the tyranny of the do-gooder.
Yeah.
Because the do-gooder, as C.S. Lewis said, they never sleep.
No.
The robber baron nicks a load of your money and then gets drunk and has a party and at least leaves you alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
But the do-gooder is constantly working to control your life, to prod you, poke you, make you eat this, stop you eating that, make you drink this, stop you drinking that, get you into the sun, get you out of the sun, get you upstairs, get you downstairs, do whatever the do-gooder thinks is best. The most ridiculous do-gooderism of yesterday was this idea that social media is more harmful to children than cigarettes.
I wanted to ask you about that,
Let's have packets of 20 B&H in schools then, shall we? If social media is so much more harmful than cigarettes. I don't think so,
no.
You highly committed loon.
Exactly right, because I was watching Jacob Rees-Mogg last night on GB News, and he was saying exactly the same thing. There are some good things about social media. He said, I've got 6 kids, and 2 of them are currently out on trips with the school. They're FaceTiming currently with their mother, which is a great thing for them and for her, and it's a great thing for families to stick together. It's nothing like smoking. There's nothing. You can't make any arguments about smoking. Well, you could probably if you were completely mad, but you're not going to make an argument about any part of smoking that's good for you as a 16-year-old child. But there are plenty of good things about social media, and there are plenty of good things about the way that young people, communicate with each other. And to liken it to something terrible and deadly and ghastly is the scaremongering of COVID, isn't it?
It's just manipulative lies, based on a desire to control people. Yeah, and we've just got to reject all of this. I was very sad to see the Conservative Party once again banging on about banning social media for under 16. We don't. The last thing we need in this country is to ban more stuff. Yeah. And can the Conservative Party please sit down and have a word with itself? Because only last week, as far as we're concerned, in practical terms, you were telling us that your Online Safety Act was going to fix everything. Right. Oh, has your Online Safety Act, in fact, not fixed anything and just caused a load more problems, but given loads of control away from us and into the hands of others? Oh, yes, it has. Right. Could you stop worrying? Stop inventing illusory problems that give you the ability to control us even more.
Yeah,
we need to have a movement for freedom, Mike. Basic liberty.
Absolutely. And I was listening to an argument about this the other night as well, about how in Australia it's actually had the opposite effect because one, the kids are smart enough to get VPN so they can access whatever they want anyway, but now you can't actually monitor it because you don't know what they're doing. And secondly, the internet has become even more vile because it's now considered to be adults only. So actually the content that you can now access on social media is worse and the kids are still on it. So, you know, the ban's really not working in any way, shape or form.
Well, the worst thing about it was there was a YouGov poll that said that of the people who want to ban social media for under 16s, 46% of them agree it wouldn't work. Like, why are we doing this then? Why? Why are we doing this? We have to become a grown-up country again. We don't, you know, every time you ban something, you need to consider that what you're effectively doing is weakening the ban on something else.
Yeah.
Because the country only has finite resources. It's this finite resource point again. You know, we only have finite resources. Every time you make something a new crime, you're effectively loosening the control based on every pre-existing crime.
Yeah.
Because we only have so many police officers. So they're only going to fight, you know, they're only able to enforce X number of crimes. We have to think about it that way. We are diluting our ability to enforce crimes. And so every new crime makes previous crimes less important, less powerful, less good. That should be taken as a deep warning to stop doing this. But we've had 30 years of ambitious politicians trying to make a name for themselves by banning something new. And they're just running out of things to ban.
Yeah,
there's not much left to ban now.
No.
You know, they just have to invent new products purely for the purposes of banning them. You know, this is just we're just getting to point stupid, and we've got to fix the system, simplify everything, and consider that freedom is actually a very useful commodity. And maybe our mental health would be a bit better if we were more free. Maybe that would be good for us. Maybe it would lessen anxiety if we weren't constantly worried that we might accidentally be committing a crime at any particular time.
Yeah, absolutely right. I got a great message here, which I've now lost, but it was basically something to the effect of, I used to buy 10 Benson & Hedges on my way to school with my dinner money for 99 pence, you know, which is all part of growing up. You know, if you're not having a cigarette when you're 12 or 13 and getting sick of it, you know, if it's not, I mean, it's enough to put most people off and then they never smoke again. A question for you, though, about Nicola Sturgeon, a legal question. This is from Patrick. Ask Stephen, how does a court view no comment via what Nicola Sturgeon said? You know, she basically was interviewed by the police and refused to talk to them effectively. She's now trying to sell the idea that she had no idea what her husband was buying. In fact, shall we play that clip that we've got, which is quite funny? This is a clip of Nicola Sturgeon talking to children about who looks after the household finances.
On that note, Kevin, do you want to ask your question to the First Minister? Go for it.
How has the cost of living crisis affected your household?
But Kevin, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that somebody like me in the job I do, which is, you know, paid well by comparison to lots of people across the country, I'm experiencing the cost of living crisis in the same way that many other people are, because I think if I was to pretend that that was the case, you would look at me and think, are you sure? Nevertheless, and the other admission I have to make here straight up is that my husband does most of the shopping in my household. So, but you know, he notices, like everybody else does, the way things are going up in price in the supermarkets. And I see the pressures in, you know, people I live next to. I see it in, you know, friends I've got. I see it in my wider family.
I mean, even the kids going, seriously? My husband does most of the shopping, I think, is possibly the greatest statement of the day, isn't it?
It's a very beautiful statement. I should clarify that these are Scottish courts. I'm not qualified in the courts in Scotland.
Yeah, okay.
They do have their entirely different system. On the specific question, I think I can answer that more directly because the claim was made by the broader SNP that that Nicola had fully cooperated. Well, if you don't answer questions, then you're not fully cooperating. And I don't think that's a very controversial thing to point out. I think that's basic common sense.
Yes.
So to claim that you were fully cooperating when in fact you simply didn't answer the questions, I think it's quite obvious that that's not true. Personally, I am very surprised at the position that the police have taken. I think that's not an uncommon position. I think most of us find this deeply suspicious. What I would highlight is that one of the reasons we didn't have devolution in the past was a great fear that there were a finite numbers of resources in the country for holding politicians to account. So it was better to have everybody in Westminster and everybody in London where all the papers were. And one of the problems I think we have seen with devolution, I think we see it with Andy Burnham, where I think he's faced no real critical press coverage up in Manchester. And now he's getting critical comments and he's having little narcissistic rages about that because he's not used to being criticized. How dare anybody not simply just say he's marvelous all the time? And I think in Scotland, I worry that there's a lack of scrutiny. I worry there's a lack of scrutiny in Northern Ireland. I worry there's a lack of scrutiny in Wales. And I think once you put big pots of cash in places where there isn't a lot of scrutiny, bad things happen. Because humans are not inherently good. So you don't build systems on the basis that all humans are inherently morally good. That's just a very stupid way to do it. That is as mad as me going to sleep with my front door open. It's not a sensible thing to do.
And also it encourages cronyism, because I've worked in Scotland and Wales, funnily enough, around about the time of devolution. I was in Wales when they actually voted yes. And when they built the Scottish Parliament, I was in Scotland. And, you know, what you get is the media kind of conglomerating around, if you like, you know, the power base, and everybody's in the same boat. So it's the Westminster bubble times a million, because it's a much smaller place and it's a much easier place to get access to privilege and to kind of, you know, favours from the government. And so all of the media don't criticise, and that's how the SNP got to where they were. And that's how Nicola Sturgeon could happily stroll around in 2021 and say, stop asking questions about our finances, everything's fine. And everybody went, oh, okay, Nicola says everything's fine, so it must be fine.
Yeah, and you know more than most people that the media is dependent on advertising.
Yeah.
And so if you're a small regional media and the SNP,
no, completely.
Their advertising budget is probably the difference between you going bust or not.
Yeah.
So how much scrutiny are you going to subject the SNP to? That's just logical. And I don't want to single out the SNP. That problem will be replicated in Wales. It will be replicated in Manchester. It will be replicated in Northern Ireland. It's a problem that you see once you start moving power, or more importantly, money, out of London.
Yes.
We don't really have enough scrutiny in London, but we at least have the best chance of scrutinizing in London than anywhere else. And the minute you start moving money out of London, it just becomes much harder to pay attention to stuff. It's a practical problem.
It really is. And it's worse than just the media. And it's not just the media. I mean, in Scotland, certainly, I don't know about Wales, but certainly in Scotland, and I've been told this by many academics, that if you are in a university situation and you're looking to get funding from the government to do particular, you know, research, if you are considered to be, you know, a wrong think, if you're considered not to be for independence, you don't get the money.
Well, and again, this is sadly inevitable, and this is what I mean when I say that if you let Blair build bad systems, you get bad outcomes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter what you're in. And Keir Starmer's a sort of a completely odd fish, because if you want to be sympathetic to him, the most you can say is, well, he's trying. But he's trying and completely failing because the system won't let him succeed. And he doesn't seem to understand that he has to use his powers to destroy this system and replace it with a system that works. He doesn't seem to be willing to do this. But anybody who's not willing to do this, Rishi Sunak wasn't willing to do it either. And so the system simply consumes you. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, Liz Truss was willing to do it, but the system had an immediate allergic reaction and had to destroy her, you know, quick as mustard before she managed to fix the system. But this is it. It's very simple. The systems Tony Blair has built are breaking.
Yeah.
They are causing broken outcomes. We are going to be a broken country until somebody fixes it.
Yeah, I think that's right. But don't worry, because if you thought that the Christian sort of, you know, mantra that we've all lived by over the course of centuries would be the answer, look no further than our Majesty's government, where every single one of them seems to become infused with celebrating Eid. Here's Steve Reed, or Steve Eid, as I'm now calling him.
I'd like to wish everyone in our British Muslim community a very happy Eid al-Adha. It's a time for reflection, it's a time to be with the family, it's a time for joy. But we know at the same time there's a lot of concern in the Muslim community about an increase in hate crime, targeting Muslims simply because of their faith. That's why this government has brought in an anti-Muslim hostility definition. So we can be clear across the public services, across businesses, to the whole country, exactly what hatred against Muslims looks like, so that we can tackle it, so that we can stop it, and so that everybody in our country who is a Muslim can go about their business and their life in peace and make the most of the many opportunities that should be and are open.
I mean, why? I just, I'm not prejudiced. I don't care what your religion is. But why do they have to make such a thing of it? What about people who aren't Muslim, who wander around and wonder whether they can have a nice, happy day? The Prime Minister's message was even worse. On Eid al-Adha, I send my warmest wishes to all those celebrating across the UK and around the world. At this special time, I wish you and your loved ones peace, joy and good health. May Eid bring comfort and inspire us all to continue standing together in the spirit of unity and mutual respect. I mean, sorry, just bugger off, will you?
It's just communist identity politics, Mike. It's designed to set these groups against each other. So for now, Muslims are the special flavor of the month. They will swap it. And I think people of identity groups, you need to get used to this. They're going to go around, they're going to spoil you, they're going to make a massive fuss about you, mainly to get everybody else to mildly resent you. And then they're going to move on and drop you like a hot stone.
Wow.
They are, when they do this, the communists just keep moving from identity group to identity group and making each one feel special for a moment and then resented by all the other identity groups. And then they move on. And it's designed to keep all these identity groups at war with each other so that they don't work out that actually the real problem is the government. So the real problem is not British Muslims. No British Muslim made Steve Reid look like a plonker there. No. Steve Reid made Steve Reid look like a plonker there. Steve Reid was divisive there, not British Muslims. Steve Reid is the problem. And so let's just ignore the identity politics and focus on the real problem, which is the government. They are the problem, Mike.
Yes. You're absolutely right, and I could not agree more. Thank you so much. And not only this government, but now previous governments with the dead hand of history from Tony Blair reaching in and sort of trying to pull out Keir Starmer's innards. I almost feel sorry for Starmer, but not quite. But good to see you, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. Stephen Barrett, the world's most favourite barrister. Brilliant man. Isn't that interesting what he said, though, about the way that the government is now treating us and actually setting up, I've never heard that explained in that way before, setting up the Muslim community to be hated by us so that somehow there is division, there is hatred, there is a kind of resentment. Because I feel that. I watched these tweets going out last night. I found myself getting more and more angry about it because I thought, why are you doing it? Why are you doing this? Are you deliberately trying to enrage people from Britain by deliberately kind of bigging up a community of people who have a particular religion, which most people in this country do not share? What's it all about? Maybe you can help me. This is, of course, the Mike Graham Show. This is the one place for common sense. We're going to speak coming up to Lord Daniel Moylan. Orla Minahane is here as well from Restore Britain. She's had an interesting week. Sarah Pochin is going to be here. I'm not sure if she's coming in or not. Emma Webber as well, who's Barnaby Webber's mother. I'm really delighted to say that she is going to be in the studio. She's been campaigning, of course, on behalf of her son, who was killed by that crazed schizophrenic in Nottingham in 2023. When he was on his way home from being out as a student in Nottingham. A terrible, terrible story, an awful situation. She's been brilliant to fight for justice for her son and his friend, who was also killed going home with him for absolutely no reason at all. She's going to be telling us what she says about the failures of the system, because the system, as ever, failed miserably to protect her child. And failed and continues to fail miserably. So she's trying to make sure that somebody takes responsibility for it. Coming up next, though, we're going to get Chris Rose on the show. Before that, let's get some news with a hopefully shirt-wearing Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. I'm Edward Hughes. Tony war criminal Blair is back, bless him, swinging his big intervention stick and telling Keir Starmer that Labour's got no coherent plan and is about to relegate Britain
I don't even know
from
why
the
it's
Premier
funny, but it
League
just
of
is.
Nations. Because nothing says helpful like the man who started the 21st Century's Greatest Hits tour, reminding everyone how much better he was. Meanwhile, the country's melting under record May heat for the second day running. Perfect weather for a few tragic drownings, and everyone pretending climate is just a fun word. Labour's big promise? Train Wi-Fi that might actually work one day. Groundbreaking stuff. Doctors say social media is as bad for kids as smoking. Shocking. And somewhere in Scotland, more SNP financial drama continues because of course it does. Classic. Laters, tigers.
What is going on with him?
He's insane.
Right? Has he lost the plot? Is he gone? He's gone off somewhere cold, is he?
Yeah.
He's literally dressed for an alpine skiing holiday. Yesterday he had no shirt on. Today, I was expecting him just to be wearing a suit and a tie, as I am, because that's what we do in a workplace scenario. But no, not for Edward Hughes. He has to wear a bobble hat and a ski jacket.
Tell him about my funeral.
Oh yeah, that's right. Pooch had to go to a funeral yesterday, and it was one of those where it wasn't terribly a sad occasion. It was somebody who'd lived a long life and was well loved, and luckily it wasn't a tragedy kind of type funeral, which some can be. And the guy who was being buried was cremated. Was he being cremated or buried? Cremated. His first name was George. His last name was Hughes, and. At some point or other in the service, I presume the vicar had to read out his name in an address of one kind or another, and it turns out his middle name was, guess what, Edward. So Pooch burst out laughing, and everyone's looking at him and going, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And of course, Edward, because now whenever you see Edward Hughes, whenever I'm watching, I was watching GB News last night, and they went to the news, and I expected to see him. You know, but it wasn't him. It was Sophia Wensler, who used to work with me at Talk, who's a lovely girl, who's just had a baby with a guy that I used to be my producer actually. Hey, I love the way Mike talks about Edward Hughes as if he was real. Well, he is real. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where he is the problem. I mean, I'm slightly concerned that HR haven't got a handle on old Edward and what he's up to. Perry says, "What? Ed is real." Yeah, I know. Well, we know that. Here's another story for you, right? Now, this happened to me on the tube the other day. It's slightly embarrassing because, again, it was a very hot day and it was a sort of standing room only kind of scenario. And so I was standing by the door. I tried to, I don't know how well you know the tubes. I don't know about you, Pooch, if you're on the tube, I prefer to go in the single door at the end of the carriage rather than the double doors, right?
You get the breeze from the window there.
You get the breeze in the window, but also it's sort of easier to come and go. And if you are going to be sort of jostled, you're not jostled by quite as many people. And also kind of the amateurs get in the double doors. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was standing, and so I had my sort of back to the door, and I had my hand on the vertical pole that you hold on to. The dangler. No, it wasn't a dangler. No, it's the pole that's from the ceiling to the floor, right? And they don't really do those danglers anymore. Do you know what they call it? It's another great American word. Do you know what they call commuters in New York? No. Strap hangers. Because they used to hang onto the straps. Anyway, apropos of nothing. So I'm standing there, right? And I've got, as you can see, I've got this watch here, right? Now, I don't want to be too flash about it, but because of the make of the watch, it's got a particular... It's quite a pointy crown. That's right, exactly. It's a crown. And so I was standing like that, and there was 3 women who got on together, and they were rabbiting away and talking as women do. And at one point, just before we pulled into a station, the woman leans back, right, and her hair catches on my watch strap. And I could see, I'm like, oh God. And I could see that it was coming away. Some of her hair, you know, was attaching to my, and she's like, and she put her hand behind her head. And I went, I'm sorry, you seem to have got your hair caught in my watch strap. And she looked at me like I'd done something terrible to her, like I'd assaulted her. Filthy look, right? And just stormed off the train. And was still patting the back of her head as if I'd tried to somehow injure her.
Was there any hair in the crown?
Yeah, I had to remove the hair. There was literally like 3 strands of quite long black hair trapped in the crown. It was quite upsetting.
Watch-based criminal activity on the tube.
Yeah. You know, I mean, they've already got signs saying don't stare at people. They didn't say anything about catching their hair in your wash trap. But, you know, potentially could have been a problem.
Could have been.
Can you imagine if she got off the train and accused me of assaulting her?
Yeah, DNA.
And said, this guy's been like, you know, feeling the back of my head. He's somehow, look, there's the evidence. He's got my hair and it's trapped in his watch strap. It could have been really bad. Might have had to call Stephen Barrett for some legal representation. But, you know, the trials and tribulations. Yesterday I was on the tube and nothing terrible happened except for when I went to go home. And I'd been in Borough Market having a few drinks and went to go into the tube at London Bridge, and the sign just said severe delays on the Jubilee line. And I'm only going to go one stop, so I got the bus home. And I'll tell you what's the worst thing about the bus, because remember when I said the other day the tubes are actually cooler, because you said it, that if you go down into Bermondsey Station, for example, the Jubilee line, and London Bridge is the same, there's air conditioning on the platform, so it's actually cooler. It's not hotter. The train itself is warm, but it's no warmer than it would be otherwise. But I'll tell you what's really bad are the buses, because the buses have no air conditioning at all. You know, the idiot Sadiq Khan wants to put water fountains everywhere, but he can't put air conditioning on the buses. Idiot.
Right, here we go, Chris Rose.
Anyway, should we talk to Chris Rose, who's here? Chris, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
Be all right with his hair.
Good to see you. I wouldn't be catching your hair on my watch strap, would I? Because you haven't got any.
No, definitely. I'll be safe from assault.
But it's one of those nightmare situations, you know, where you kind of, you know, you try and keep yourself, mind your own business. You don't want to get into any trouble these days. You know, you don't want to say anything. And then suddenly I'm thinking, crikey, you know, I could have spiraled out of control quickly, you know.
It could. I mean, I think a similar situation happened to me actually not
Oh,
that
yeah.
long ago, where someone's hair did get trapped in my watch that I was wearing. But
Really?
thankfully, when they walked off, it didn't do anything. It was just a strand came off their hair, but
Was it a
nothing
woman?
major. Yeah, it was.
And did she notice? Because this woman was getting off the train and she was like feeling the back of her head like I'd stabbed her or something.
No, this one thankfully didn't notice at all.
I mean, I wonder if there's a name for it, what, a pooch. But it's this kind of thing Pooch would know the answer to. You know, there's a name for, you know, catching somebody's hair in your watch strap. It's very weird, very weird. Anyway, listen, let's talk about the state of play. I want to play you a little bit of Andy Burnham. You'll be pleased to know that Andy Burnham has announced, right, with great fanfare, that he's going to be giving out us a daily video diary of what he's been doing, right? This is from yesterday. I think it's the first one. Have a look.
Hi everyone, morning. Out and about in a sunny Hindley, and thought with a week into the campaign I'd do the first of my campaign updates. Going to do this every day. Just want to let you know where I'm up to and how I'm getting on. Had a really good weekend. Caught the sun a little bit, as you can see. But what I've been doing is sticking to what I said on the doorsteps, not point scoring against the other parties, saying what I would do. You know, because I think sometimes politicians don't do that. This is about changing Labour, locally and nationally. That's what this is all about. We haven't been good enough and we need to be better, locally and nationally. Locally, I was with residents in Winstanley last night talking about greenbelt issues, and I know we need a change in the borough, shift the burden of development from greenfields to the local centres, and that's a change. Nationally, I think we just need to do much more on the cost of living, because that's coming up pretty much on every single doorstep. Winter fuel was a mistake. We just need to take stronger action to get the basics affordable for people back under public control: water, energy, housing, transport, all of these things. So this is what I mean when I say change at Labour. So I'm not doing the point scoring, but the main thing I also want to get over is I'm running a positive, unifying campaign, because this constituency needs to come back together after this. I've always taken a place first approach, not a party first approach as Mayor of Greater Manchester, and I would do that as your MP if I'm lucky enough to be that. We do need to come back together. We need to, you know, get stronger together, and that's what I would do. So this is just the first update. Many, many more to come. Thanks for all of your time on the doorsteps, everybody. I've really appreciated it and enjoyed the conversations. More to come.
I can't wait for today's episode, can you? I mean, possibly the most boring video I think I've ever seen. And also, it doesn't say anything. You know, we'd be stronger together. I've done what I said I would do, which is what I said on the doorsteps, which is, I don't really know. There's no policy there, is there?
No, not really. I mean, what's fascinating listening to it is that he seems to think that his in an entirely different party to the one that Keir Starmer is leading. It's like they're talking about two different Labour parties.
Yeah, right.
Like his is going to be completely different. You know, he doesn't realise we're going to have the same faces in there from the cabinet. He's not really going to change much at all. He's going to go in the same direction. He doesn't really have a mandate for anything new at the moment. He's only running to be an MP. Unless he has a general election, he can't really change the mandate too much. Otherwise, it'd be completely undemocratic. And remember, he's the one who said that when the Tories changed prime ministers, they should call a general election if they want a new mandate. So we should be holding him to account if that scenario does actually happen as well.
Yeah.
But no, nothing he said is actually any good. I mean, I prefer listening to Rob Kenyon's one. He's actually more informative of what he's actually doing on the doorstep and what he's actually got to say when he becomes an MP, and a bit more of his background as well.
Yeah.
With Andy Burnham, he's like a more human form of Keir Starmer, but he just flip-flops all the time. Doesn't really have anything interesting that would change people and think, oh, you know, I'll vote Labour for you. But everything he's doing is just sound bites at all.
Well, that's the thing. But it's almost as though he believes that he should just get elected because he's Andy Burnham. You know, like he doesn't really have to prove himself. He doesn't have to convince anybody of anything. He just has to go, well, I'm the local lad, you know, which is also a bit of an untruth, to be honest. And you should vote for me because I'm the only person that really represents the local community, which is absolute rubbish because, as you say, the Reform candidate is more local than Andy Burnham will ever be. And I've asked questions in the past about, you know, is it inconceivable that he decided to move his family into this constituency because he thought maybe at some point he could run for Prime Minister effectively from that constituency and then say, oh yeah, I love it so much here, I moved my family here.
Definitely. I mean, it does come across that way, to be honest with you.
That's what I think.
Because some of the locals don't actually believe his story, that he was just, you know, had a tough upbringing, because they've actually found out that the house he grew up in is now worth £1.3 million. So that's right. Tough upbringing. They say it's from the more posher areas of that constituency.
Yeah.
So it kind of just seems as though he's kind of blagging this as trying to be one of the people. But we don't really buy it from people like him, because he was an MP for Labour for, you know, over a decade, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, I did a piece at the weekend. I did a piece at the weekend for my Substack, counting all of the different jobs that he had in cabinet, both for Tony Blair and for Gordon Brown, and including, by the way, Secretary of State for Media, Culture and Sport, including being Minister of Health, including, you know, a whole series of, you know, parliamentary undersecretary type jobs, and then working with Ed Miliband as senior shadow cabinet minister, working under Jeremy Corbyn, working under Keir Starmer. You know, so he's had this entire litany of effectively, you know, establishment jobs in politics, and he's got the cheek to say, for the last 40 years, it's all been going horribly wrong. And you go, well, you were doing it for 35 of those years.
Exactly, is a big part of the establishment and the problem that he so often speaks of. He's not a fresh face at all.
No.
And someone like Rob Kenyon's is a fresh face. You know, Andy Burnham is just, frankly, he represents the type of Labour that we don't really want. I mean, he wanted to rejoin the EU. He wanted to say that men in dresses can go into women's toilets.
Yeah.
You know, he also said he would keep the fiscal rules of Rachel Reeves, which aren't really going too well either. So that's, you know, all the 3 U-turns we've had, and he's not even an elected MP yet. I mean, that's the thing. If he became Prime Minister, he would definitely U-turn on a lot of things,
right?
Just like he does. We can't really trust these types of establishment politicians, because we've seen it all before. So why on earth would we want to elect somebody who represents the same thing that we've seen over the decades that have constantly let us down? And, you know, what's is that he has defended illegal migrants on a number of occasions, saying that, you know, their conditions that they're living in are poor. And I think to myself, he's never really spoken out for the British public, want them gone. You know, he's frankly, deep down, you kind of sense that he probably thinks we're all racist for wanting them to leave Britain. He definitely doesn't come across as somebody who I particularly would trust to deal with the illegal migration situation at all. I think he would turn into somebody who was just completely, well, be more open and honest about his own border situation if he did get power. So that's exactly why I don't particularly trust him. I've not heard him say anything genuine about stopping the boats.
Well, exactly right. Because I think everybody would expect if he does win and if he does become Prime Minister, he would take this country even further to the left than Keir Starmer has. Because if we think Starmer's bad, this guy would be even worse. And Tony Blair this morning writing in the Times about how Labour shouldn't be jumping to the left because it's going to be the death of the party. Are they going to take any notice of that, do you think?
I don't think they actually will. I think they naturally want to move further to the left. I think when they look at people like Shabana, I think he probably makes them a bit more uncomfortable, and she's not even doing anything that radical. So it kind of just shows that they don't really naturally intend to want to make any fundamental changes. And I think they're just going to ignore Tony Blair, who, for once, he's actually said some good points about it. But I do disagree with him on the fact that he just wants more New Labour, which is actually what the British public don't actually want either.
Yeah.
So we don't really want them to lurch to the left. We don't really want more Blairism. We want to undo Blairism because it's been so fundamentally damaging to British establishments as well. So what we actually just need is frankly just a new government, really, a new general election of fresh faces, because that will only probably steer the ship more steadily. But, they're still heading for an iceberg and they're still heading for a crash. There's no saving Labour under Andy Berman. I think they're delusional. It doesn't matter whether they lurch to the left or right. It's not really something that the British public want. We've made that pretty clear in the local elections, and the polling still shows that, Labour and the Tories are not really appealing for the British public. So I just think a general election is fundamentally what's going to happen. Whether it's an early general election under Andy Burnham, he might be tempted to do that if he becomes Prime Minister. But I just think we need one very much as soon as possible.
Yes. And what do you make of the way the polls are going up there? Because there's a lot of kind of, double speak, it seems to be, coming out of both Restore Britain and the Labour Party in terms of what the polls are actually saying. It's hard to judge, it seems to me, what's actually going on. I don't know what you're hearing.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. I mean, on the doorstep, it does seem as though the Restore Britain vote is definitely real. And they could take, from the last poll I saw, was 5 to 7% of the vote. But I just think when it comes to the political left, they're more wise about voting tactically. That I've noticed, problems they have, they do it better than the right. And I hope that the right does unite and be smart and think to themselves, Rob Kenyon, who is a guy who, if we were to ask Restore Britain and Reform to think of a candidate that's ideal, I think both of them would come up with a guy like Rob Kenyon who's close to what they. So I hope they don't mess it up and elect somebody like Andy Berman, who, he's actually much further away from me, myself, and somebody in Restore. And I just think, what's the point of messing it up to elect somebody who both are politically alienated to? So I do hope politically that people can see the sense of voting tactically this time, even if they don't like Reform and if they don't like Nigel. Not fundamentally about them, it's about Rob Kenyon, who's a working class guy who genuinely wants to represent the constituency that he has. A lot of people from Hope Not Hate would be absolutely loving and, happy with glee if he didn't get elected, given that they tried to cancel him over, comments that he said last decade, which I think is ridiculous. And I think people could probably even, sympathise with that, because I know people in there who have certainly been tried to be cancelled due to previous comments that they've made in the past.
Yeah.
So I do think to myself, they should actually get behind this guy who's genuine, patriotic. He, served in the army as a reservist as well. So I do think, he's just a top-notch guy who is so genuine as well. If you've ever met him, he's a fantastic candidate all round. And I do think he's better. I mean, I look at the Restore Britain's Rebecca Shepherd, and she does need some media training. They don't really do much of her. I've noticed. I've not really heard much about her either. She seems hidden away. I've heard more from Rupert Lowell than I have about the candidates, which is a bit odd.
Right.
So I think hopefully Reform can come up with a tactic where they eat into the Restore vote and eat into the Labour vote, because there's about 3 weeks left now. So it's all to play for, I think. I don't think there's any point in throwing in the towel and saying, oh, it's just going to be Andy Burnham walking through. Things can change. And, you've got to remember that with Reform and Restore certainly as a new party, voting loyalty is not really as rigid as they used to be. People who might think to themselves, oh, I quite like what Restore is saying. He might think to himself, actually, I quite like Rob Kenyon. I might vote Restore on this occasion, but in another occasion, I'll vote Restore again. So we might see a lot of that. That's what I'm hoping to see anyway.
Yeah, well, let's see. It's going to be a fascinating month, basically. It's June the 18th, of course, is the date for the actual by-election. Chris, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Chris Rose there reporting into us on what's going on up there in the Manchester suburb, if you like, I suppose you might call it, of Makerfield. It's difficult to know because there are so many different polls coming out. I mean, Rupert Lowe keeps saying that he thinks that they've got enough backing to win the actual race altogether for Restore Britain. I don't think that's going to be the case. But the question is, does Restore pick up enough votes to actually damage Reform's ability to beat Andy Burnham, which they certainly would probably do, albeit on a very tight basis, if Restore Britain weren't there. But we'll be having these conversations, I'm sure, for quite a long time. Right now, though, it's time to welcome yet another guest to the show. Catherine McBride, OBE, is here. Catherine, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. We live in strange times. Tony Blair is back on the front pages talking about the Labour Party shouldn't lurch to the left. We just talked to Chris Rose there about the by-election coming up. We could have, it's not inconceivable. We could have a new Prime Minister by the summer, couldn't we?
It is extraordinary because I was listening to you earlier talking about Andy Burnham's life, and I'm pretty sure the reason he left and went to Manchester was because he wouldn't serve under Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
And now I think he's further to the left of Jeremy Corbyn, but maybe I'm mixing something up. Maybe
I think
I'm
like a lot of
misremembering.
these politicians, he's sort of slightly, every time he opens his mouth, he's reinventing his history, because what we have learned about him is that, when he started talking about how politics is broken and it hasn't worked for people in this country for 40 years, we went all the way back to sort of various incarnations of his, to find that for the last 35 years or so, he's been part of the political establishment in this country. He signed up to join the Labour government, or the Labour Party, when he was 15, right? So, which is pretty unusual. I mean, when I was 15, I wasn't signing up to any political parties. I was, too busy, smoking and drinking and going out.
Having fun.
And having fun,
Actually, you were busy about learning about life.
About life, yeah.
And I think the problem with our politics is we have so many of these career politicians, like Burnham, who did do stupid things when he was in power.
Yeah.
Now he's saying they were all wrong.
Yeah.
And you think, well, if you'd have come into politics when you were older, you would have not done them in the first place.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple of interesting clips which we're going to play later on. One is Jess Phillips, the other one is Wes Streeting, both of whom are basically admitting in interviews about two completely different things. Oh, well, I can speak freely now because I'm not in government. And you kind of go, oh, right, so when you were in government, basically, you told a load of lies then. Yeah. And Wes Streeting in particular is talking about his attitude to, I think it's to kids and mobile phones, isn't it? Yeah. And then similarly with Jess Phillips, she's talking about, I wasn't very keen on Peter Mandelson being appointed. And it's like, but you didn't resign. Yeah. You didn't complain.
Collective responsibility.
And, you didn't equally say anything publicly. And she more or less admits that basically when you're in government, you use that as an opportunity to get something for yourself. Yeah. So you threaten to resign, and then you don't resign because they give you something. It's very grubby. And for them to now sort of admit it openly is almost worse in a way.
Well, they're not the only ones, unfortunately. The Conservatives are now reversing almost every policy that they put in place. Right. And you're going, well, why did you put them in place? Yeah. And they're also career politicians with no idea what they were doing. Right. And they never resign.
No.
And now...
Well, I mean, look at the Tories on energy, They were so wedded with Boris Johnson to net zero. I mean, they kind of started the whole net zero crusade, which we're now still suffering from. But now they're saying, we don't think net zero is that important, and we think that we should be reopening the oil and gas fields in the North Sea.
And reversing
why did you shut them down then?
Yeah, reversing the air conditioning ban.
Right.
It's like, well, why did you introduce the air conditioning ban? Why did you introduce the energy price cap, which has gone up by another £200 today?
Yes.
And it's become an energy price target. It's not a cap.
Right.
It's not restricting anyone's bills.
Right.
It just means that all energy companies can aim for this is your new price.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose, like many people did, a letter from an email from the electric company saying, it's time for you to get your new tariff, because your tariff is about to run out, and if you don't get a new tariff, we're basically going to punish you, and we're going to send some boys around to beat you to a pulp until you agree to pay us even more money. I mean, the whole system in this country. I mean, and I've also seen some people who in the southeast have sent me emails that they've got today from their water company saying that, you know, we're terribly sorry, but because it's been so hot, there's probably not going to be any water in a couple of days, and you might have to do without. And it's like, does anybody in this country know how to run anything anymore? Yeah. They don't seem to.
And the point of a water company is to make sure you don't run out.
Right.
I mean, that's their only product.
I mean,
the only thing they are supplying you with is water.
Yeah, it's literally, they call it a rainy day, right? Yeah. So when there's a rainy day, collect the bleeding water. And then so you've got some for when it's not raining.
Yes.
Right?
But then that does come back to a lot of our green activists who have stopped them building reservoirs and things like that.
Yeah. Can you explain, because nobody ever has to me, why it is that apparently having reservoirs is now environmentally unfriendly? Because that seems to be the reasoning. The reason they haven't built reservoirs is because it's not good for the environment. Why isn't it?
I have no idea. I come from a country where people, you know, farmers all have their own dams, or not just one. They'll have one in every paddock virtually. Right. Because running out of water is the death knell of that industry. Right. And the environmentalists like to talk a big game about global warming and it's all going to be terrible. Yeah. And you go, well, prepare for it. Yes. You know, start building your reservoirs. And instead they're worried about the newts or whoever's living in the valley that they're going to flood, so they don't want to do that. Right. And then they can't compete with China. And you look at the Three Gorges Dam that the Chinese built, which is like, when they need water, you know, they go for it.
And also, you look at things. I mean, I was ridiculed once when I was on Talk TV in the old days of Talk TV, when it was, you know, properly televised, as it were. And I said, you know, we live on an island. Why don't we have some desalination plants? Yeah. And people were like, oh yeah, that's easy. It's too expensive. It doesn't work. It's environmentally unfriendly. It burns too much energy. And then you look around the world and you look in the Middle East, for example, where in Saudi, in Qatar, in all of those countries which are effectively deserts, they've got massive desalination plants, I think even in Israel. Yes. And they work perfectly well. They're not expensive. And they make use of the water which is all around them. It makes, you know, to me, perfect sense that we should do that.
Yes, it does make perfect sense. But of course, they all don't put a lot of taxes on their energy. Right. So their energy is cheaper, not because of any other reason than the fact that they're not taxing it the way we are. Right. So most of our energy costs, or a large proportion of them, are to do with the way our government keeps putting carbon taxes on. Right.
Well, they're also oil-rich nations, I guess.
But so are we.
But yeah.
We're an oil-rich nation who chooses to keep it in the ground. Right. It's extraordinary.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
And that, you know, I know we could blame the Conservatives for a lot of energy policy mistakes, huge number. But apparently the ETS, the first carbon tax, basically, emissions trading scheme, was started by Tony Blair. And he influenced the EU. I always thought it was an EU law, which it is, but apparently it was Tony Blair's idea. Yeah. And the UK was the first person under Blair to trial it and see if it worked. And then he lobbied the EU and forced them to put it on for all the countries. Right.
Well, this is why it's fascinating seeing his intervention today, writing in the Times about how, you know, the Labour government should not lurch to the left because it's bad news for not just them, but for the whole country. But we were saying earlier, again, talking to Stephen Barrett, the barrister this morning, an awful lot of the problems that we have now were created by Tony Blair's government because he wanted to change Britain in such a way that it would have lasting effects. And that, you know, many, many decades after he'd gone, he could point to this and that and the other and go, that was me that did that. And we're still reaping the whirlwind of that.
Well, I would say he was another sort of student politician who became a career politician and who never really went to work in the real world and to find out how things work and how things are made and why you need energy and why you shouldn't change the British Constitution. And now as an older man, he's suddenly worked out where he went wrong. Yeah.
But also, except for the fact that he makes this lot look like real amateurs. I mean, you know, he may have been a career politician, but he was actually at least quite an effective one. Well, this lot are not effective at all.
He did also have quite a good cabinet of people who were older and wiser than him, who did have experience in the business that was going on. Right. They still had trade unionists in Labour who knew how things were made and knew why energy was important in the factory and how the factory would close down without that energy. Right. I mean, they're now looking at the fact that our energy use is going down. And And so many of our politicians are just looking at domestic use, which is probably lower because people are turning things off.
Yeah.
But it's our industrial use is decimated.
Yes.
Factories are leaving.
Well, because we have no factories anymore. I mean, there's nothing really that we make, is there? I mean, as the occasional car factory, I suppose you might point to, but there's not many of those left. And all of the kind of industry that even was still around when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, it's all gone.
Well, a lot of it is gone. The car factories are still there, but they're on their knees because of another Conservative policy, this idea that if you don't sell enough EVs, we're going to fine you for every car you sell that people want to buy.
Oh my God, yeah, I'd forgotten about
that was one of the dumbest things they ever did, which shows how out of touch they are with consumer demand as well as markets. You know, they all call themselves free markets. And you're going, no, a market is where people buy what they want to buy, not where the government says, oh, well, if you sell them that, we're going to fine you.
And which is not subsidised by the government. I mean, a great example was that ridiculous Rachel Reeves offer, wasn't it, this week or back end of last week, to say to parents, oh, we're going to give you a break this summer if you want to take your kids to Legoland or to some other theme park, which is going to cost you hundreds of pounds, we'll give you £2 or £3 off.
Yeah.
And they don't get that people are going, actually, that's not very helpful. That's not really what we want. And in addition to which, of course, we've learned that if you're on universal credit, you can go there for £1. So, you know, they just want to,
Oh, no.
You can go to the Tower of London, you can go to London Zoo, and you basically get a discount to such an extent that you can take a family of 4 or 5 or 6 for £1 each. And you don't even have to prove that they're your direct relations. You can just sort of turn up with a group of people, show that you're on universal credit. And, you know, you're in a queue where you're paying £1 and there's another family over there paying 200 quid because they've got money. It's ridiculous. It's mad.
Well, there's very much an incentive to not work and to get onto universal credit.
Totally.
I mean, they are a bit sort of one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing because they've also got, you know, Nick Thomas Simmons trying to drag us back into the EU and make let the EU make all of our laws for us.
Yeah.
And then we've got Rachel Reeves who wants starts a Buy British program, and you're going, well, that's against EU law.
Right.
You know, once the EU's making all our laws, which is what the lazy ones want, then even the ones that are trying to help, and I think her heart's in the right place. She's just being really badly advised.
Yes.
And doesn't...
I don't think she's very good at economics, even though she says that she's an economist who studied at the London School of Economics and she worked as an economist. I don't think she's very good at it.
No. And
I think a new career would be good.
Well, I think, unfortunately, she's the best of a bad lot, as we were saying. So, though she probably doesn't understand economics, and I think a lot of people don't, especially the Treasury advising her.
Yeah.
I did say this the other day. I studied economics, but I really didn't understand it till I started working in the bond markets and the equity markets and the commodity markets, and you suddenly get it.
Yeah.
You suddenly know what this market's all about.
Right.
Where most university lecturers have no idea, the books that they're reading from never worked in the markets.
No.
And the people working in the Treasury have no idea.
They don't
They've
get it
never
either.
run a corner shop.
Right.
They've never traded a bond.
No.
They don't really understand that people
Well,
have
look
choices.
at this government and the cabinet of this government. Not one of them has ever worked in a commercial operation. I mean, I was looking at James Murray, for example, who's now been put in charge of the NHS. He's now the new Secretary of State for Health since Wes Streeting resigned, right? This guy not only has never run anything in terms of a commercial operation, but he has no experience of any sort of healthcare scenario.
Yeah.
So he's basically been put in charge of, I think it's the 3rd biggest organisation in the world, with literally no experience. You know, it's like putting me in charge of the army, you know, which I've never been in, and suddenly start sort of ordering people around. It's insane.
Well, the healthcare is interesting because you're not just dealing with health, and it would help, you know, a nurse or a doctor who'd worked in the NHS for 20 years probably would have a better idea. But you're also, as you rightly point out, dealing with a massive organisation.
Yeah.
So even someone who had run a large company would probably be in a better position to run that than someone who never even had a real job.
No.
I mean, the trade minister's only ever worked in an NGO.
Right.
So he's only ever worked in a business where you get people, give you money.
Yes.
You've never had to
So
make
you're basically
payroll.
spending other people's money as opposed to
and when
actually
you
generating
run out of
it.
money, you go back and get more.
Yeah.
As opposed to any business who's got to come up with, they've got to find the money at the end of the month or the end of the week to pay people.
Right.
And that's a very different thing from working in a charity.
Yeah, because in the world of government, you get to the end of the month and you go, crikey, we've got to pay all these people, haven't got any money, what do we do? Oh, I know, let's go and borrow some more.
Or put up taxes.
Yeah, and it's always about, we're giving you this back. I mean, like even the language they use when they were talking about this VAT cut that they're giving to parents, which is going to be meaningless anyway, but, they make out that they're doing something for you because they're not taxing you. And it's like, no, that's like saying, I'm not going to punch you in the face, and you should be grateful for me not punching you in the face.
I would like to see a VAT cut all across the board.
Yeah.
Because VAT was an EU institution.
Yeah.
It's a very silly one. It's one of the reasons that EU...
And ours is really, it's a sales tax, but for us, it's a really high sales tax.
Yeah.
In other parts of the world, it's 8% or 9%. Here it's 20%.
And if you have a low sales tax, people will spend more.
Yeah.
We are putting the brakes on spending by having this massive tax. If you look at any retail spending, the guy who gets the most money, if you go into the high street and buy a pair of trainers, the guy who gets the most money is the government.
Yeah.
About a third of everything you spend is either VAT or it's business rates or it's the tax on the energy to turn on the the store, or it's the extra tax they're putting on employing people.
Yeah.
So if you're getting served, their wages have tax on it. You add all that up, and the government's the only people benefiting from running a business.
And this is the problem with the petrol prices, isn't it? And the diesel price. If they really want to help hard-working families and people who are struggling to make ends meet, they should just make it cheaper at the pumps for people to buy petrol, because they could. 53% of the price of petrol is government tax.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
And then that's another one where they say they're giving you a discount when they're not putting it up.
Right.
And you're going, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not cutting the
You're
price.
You're just milking the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But I'm still paying you half of what I make in tax.
Yes.
It really is shocking. Mind you, looking at the BP story this morning, you wonder whether it's any better in the private sector in Britain. This is BP who sacked their chief executive, supposedly over bullying allegations, right? And he was described this morning when I was listening to Times Radio as a bit shouty. And apparently he's only been in, I think, 8 months, right? But they wiped 5 billion quid off their own value of the company by creating this kind of crisis out of nothing.
Well, and also he was changing the direction of the company.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic guy, and the reason it was up, I mean, it went up a lot when he took over, because unlike his predecessor, who was a green zealot who actually wanted BP to stop producing the only thing that they make.
I mean, that was the thing that really grabbed me. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it, where the chief exec came out and said, right, we're no longer going to be drilling for oil and gas. And you went, sorry, you're an oil and gas company.
That's all you do.
Right.
And you're never going to be able to compete with the Chinese in wind farms or whatever. And so this guy actually pushed the price up because he was actually getting back into their real job, oil and gas.
Core business, some people
and
would
so
call
I
it.
would suspect all of the bullying allegations have come from the sort of green zealots who were employed under Looney, and that was his name, Looney, I'm not being rude about him. They probably want to get rid of this guy and go back to BP being a nonsense
they're still,
company.
I mean, despite all of the kind of what we like to think of, and Pooch and I talk about this quite a lot, the sort of the dissemination, if you like, of the wokists, and how we're hopefully trying to get common sense back into the world that we live in, and there's not much of it going. There's still a lot of it going on. I was on Facebook just yesterday and stupidly answered. I mean, I try not to do these kind of surveys, but I'd bought something from somewhere, and they were like, could you fill out this form and tell us how satisfied you were or not, or whatever. And the first thing they asked was, how impressed were you with the sustainability of the product? And I'm going, I'm not even thinking about that. Why are you asking me about the sustainability of the product,
Well, they've also stolen that word.
Yeah.
Because they mean sustainability in a green sense.
Yes.
But if you speak to a lot of people our age, they think it means enduring.
Yes.
They think, oh, well, it lasted, a long time.
Well, that's what
so
it should mean, right? That's the actual, that's the
real
definition.
word. But they've completely destroyed our language.
Yeah.
They've filled large businesses with these sort of bureaucratic nonsense who don't understand where energy comes from. This morning you listened to the guy from Ofcom talking on the BBC, complaining about the profits they're making.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, well, I never see you on the BBC complaining when they make a loss.
Right.
And he's trying to blame his high energy costs
Yeah.
on the oil and gas market. And you're going, well, that's only gone up in the last 6 months.
Yes.
And energy, your prices have been going up for at least 5 years, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we've got this this bizarre idea that it's okay for a large company to make a loss and no one's going to notice, except a few shareholders and your pension and a few things like that. But when they make a profit, it's like, oh my God, that's terrible.
You better hit them with a windfall tax.
Oh, well,
you know?
yeah, exactly. Well, an
But
even
that's how it
higher
feels
windfall
now.
tax.
But that's how it feels now in Britain. The more money that you make, the more they're going to punish you. It's almost just like, you know, they don't want you to make any money because that's a bad thing. It's almost like you're evil and twisted and selfish and ghastly. You know, what's wrong with you? Why don't you give half your money away?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And they don't seem to understand that is the, you know, they won't get any money if all of the people stop working and go onto universal credit.
Yeah.
Then there will be no money to pay for that universal credit. It's a very
well, there
peculiar
isn't now,
system.
to be honest, is there? I mean, we've now got, 9 million people who are effectively not contributing to the economy in one way, shape or form. They might be pensioners or they might be students or they might be unemployed, but there's 9 million of them. It's a lot of people.
Well,
and we're paying for them all.
Yeah. But then we're also driving out of business. So then once you become unemployed, it becomes harder to get a job.
Yeah.
Because they've driven your business out of the country because, you know, they closed down oil refineries, they've closed down various high energy intensive industries. And then they complain that there are sections of the country, because it's not even universal. There are parts of areas, if you lived in a town where your only industry was the coal mine, or your only industry was the oil refinery, or if you're up in Aberdeen and you were working in the oil industry and making a lot of money, suddenly your industry gets closed down, but there isn't another industry to employ you. So you have to go on universal credit. You know?
And now we live in a world where, yesterday I was sitting in Borough Market having a drink, and this guy came up to me and asked for money, and he's clutching a copy of Big Issue. And I said, I'm sorry, mate, I haven't got any cash. He's like, it's okay, I've got a card reader. They've all got card readers now. You know, the bums are going, don't worry, we'll take your credit card. I'm like, I'm not giving you my credit card because I don't know what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
But it's incredible.
But also, those machines aren't free.
No.
I mean, that's the other thing. It's like,
what's he
hang
got,
on a minute.
PayPal account now,
Yeah,
this guy?
you probably.
Yeah.
I mean, probably that's where it all...
Is he paying any tax? I don't know.
Of course not.
It just seems everything's backwards and strange. We're running very late. I've got a red sign in front of me. I'm terribly sorry. Well, it's because I'm enjoying the conversation with Catherine.
I'm distracting you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Catherine's, it's all your fault.
It is all my fault.
We'll have to tax you on the way out, I'm afraid. Just empty pockets. I like Catherine. Love to see new guests on the show, says Newsmonger. Thank you very much indeed. Terribly sorry. We're keeping Lord Moylan late, I think, aren't we? Are we going to do news first?
No, we're going to go
straight to Lord Moylan. I must apologise. You guys may know each other. Lord Moylan, very good to see you. I'm terribly sorry to keep you waiting. I blame Catherine.
I love Catherine, but I had to send the window cleaner away. I've got the window cleaner coming in 8:30, but I'm about to send him away now, Mike, because of you. That's a loss to the economy.
Well, you know, there was a time when you'd be taxed on the number of windows that you had, and so probably a man of your means has probably got a lot of windows. No, exactly. Well, hopefully when the windows are cleaned, you'll be able to gaze upon the state of the nation with even more clarity than normal, and you'll be able to see that what we've done wrong over the last 2 years is not listen to Tony Blair.
It's amazing that we live in a country so forlorn for political ideas that it makes Tony Blair look like a sort of intellectual giant. But you have to say, when you listen to Tony Blair, he actually sounds like he's a grown-up and intelligent compared to the Prime Minister and everybody else who's trying to become Prime Minister.
Yes.
That's the amazing thing.
That is the amazing thing, because it's tragic that we have such a paucity, and I've said this many times over the last 2 years, a paucity of talent, you know, where you've got Rachel Reeves, who doesn't appear to be much of an economist, running the Treasury, where you've got now a guy called James Murray running the third biggest organisation in the world in the National Health Service, who's never worked in any sort of medical form at all in his entire history. Keir Starmer, who we're continually told is a good lawyer. I'm not sure he is. I'm not sure he's good at anything.
Yeah, they're not a very impressive bunch. And I think what they need is a period in opposition, because they've got to sort themselves out. They don't know what they believe in, they don't know what they're doing with the country, and they don't have a leader. They're a complete bunch of headless chickens, and they just happen to be in charge of the government. And until they move to one side and let somebody else get a go, we aren't going to have any government in this country, not for several months, quite possibly. And when we do, the odds are, I mean, I don't know who's going to win the Makerfield by-election and so on. Where all these things have to happen in the right order. But if they did happen, the solution they want to see happen is that Andy Burnham should take over. Well, I mean, Andy Burnham hasn't done anything except Manchesterism.
Right.
And Manchester, I've looked into this Manchesterism. And what it comes down to is that he took over the buses.
Right.
He hasn't nationalised the buses. The buses are still owned by private companies. They're still run by private companies in Manchester. He's just put a lick of paint on them. And now he decides where they're going to run and what the routes are. And that's it. That's Manchesterism. There isn't anything else to it. Oh, he's got a £2 fare cap. But it was the Tories who had the £2 fare cap, and it was Labour who put it up to £3. So basically, he's carried on with the Tory policy, which I'm not complaining about particularly, but it doesn't show like, it's a brilliant piece of original political thinking.
No, but he's also spent £100 million of taxpayers' money doing it, which is also...
Oh, that's nothing compared to Sadiq Khan. I mean, Sadiq is spends getting on for $1 billion a year running the buses. $1 billion a year, so 10 times as much. Now, I suppose there are more people in London, fair enough, and there are more buses probably, but, I know, $100 million to run the buses is nothing nowadays in the world of Labour.
It is shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. I mean, just to divert to London for a minute, the number of empty buses that you see driving around, particularly in the middle of the day, is horrendous. I mean, I used to work at London Bridge.
I used to be responsible for the buses, you see, in London on Boris. And the truth is, let me tell you, Mike, the reason they're empty is they're rushing to the bus stop to pick up the passengers.
Yes, of course. But then they get there and there aren't any, unfortunately, through most of the day.
That wasn't true under Boris, and it is nowadays largely true. And one of the reasons is all the bike lanes. Now, again, Boris started the bike lanes, so that was his folly. But Sadiq has carried on and multiplied them. So the buses are less and less reliable and take longer, so people stop using them. And it's a sort of death cycle that we had got out of. I mean, back in the 1960s, the buses were so heavily used. They were a complete cash cow in London. They made a fortune in London, which were used to subsidise the tube and things like that. Well, then they went into a decline because the roads got so clogged up and the buses were totally unreliable. And we sort of got out of that starting about 2000. And it was, to be fair, a lot of it was to do with Ken Livingstone. And we kept that going, and now it's gone back into the same decline, and nobody seems to care. Sadiq doesn't seem to care. He just says, bring on the bicycle lanes and keep going with the subsidies. I don't know, it's mad.
I know. The other thing, of course, that Andy Burnham's famous for in Manchester is creating a ULEZ zone, which never went anywhere. And he spent £200 million on that. So in addition to the 100 million on the buses, add another 200 million. Apparently, I haven't been there very frequently in the last few years, but if you go to Manchester, you will see loads of cameras situated along various different roads with signs on them saying under review, because they bought all the equipment, they installed all the equipment, and then the public said, we don't want this because we don't want to pay £7.50 to drive into Manchester. We don't want to pay £15 if you're a lorry driver or a cab driver. And it all went nowhere.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid Andy's not necessarily very good at being a mayor, but I mean, he's quite popular in Manchester. And look, he does sound human, which is an improvement on most of the other people. I mean, let alone Keir Starmer. I mean, Rachel Reeves doesn't really sound human.
No.
Wes Streeting, I don't know. Sort of person who might buy a lot of Mont Blanc pens. I don't know.
I mean, that is extraordinary, isn't it, that story? I mean, I have asked people, I was doing it more yesterday than I have today, but, have you ever had a partner who bought so much stuff unbeknownst to you and sort of stored it somewhere in the house that you never saw it? And that would include, of course, a brand new Jaguar sitting on the front of the driveway.
there's something very strange about it. And he doesn't seem to have used any of them. I mean, did he ever go on a holiday in the camper van?
No, I don't think they did.
And he had this drawer full of pens. So, okay, so, I mean, most people have a drawer full of pens, actually.
I've got a drawer full of pens, but none of them are worth 4,000 quid.
No, it doesn't matter. The principle's the same. But is your life enhanced by having a drawer full of pens? Is it something you'd go to jail for?
I actually can't write anymore.
No, I can't write anymore either.
Sorry, my handwriting is so bad. It's like worse than any doctor you've ever seen on a prescription note, which I guess they don't do anymore either. But yeah, if I write anything down now, I can't read it. I just can't.
No, but anyway, the point is, most people have a drawer full of pens, and he just had to have a drawer full of pens he wanted to go to jail for.
It's very weird, very strange.
It's very, very strange.
And it's really not credible, is it, that she didn't have any idea about what he was doing?
I don't want to say. I wouldn't want to say that. I mean, she's persuaded the police that she had no criminal involvement, and I wouldn't be the one to accuse her. It is a little bit odd. I think the thing that is oddest is the camper van. I mean, you would notice it. You would notice it. I mean, if he came home in a new Jaguar at the end of the day, you'd say, well, maybe he borrowed a mate's car. Maybe there's something wrong with his car. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe something's happened to our car and he's got this one from the insurance company for a week or whatever. But the camper van, and I didn't even know you could spend £135,000 on the camper van. I thought people bought them sort of second hand for 15,000 quid. But you've got £135,000 camper van, and as far as I can tell, it's enormous, and it's sitting there outside your front door, and you probably have to walk round it when you come out of the front door in the morning, and it blocks the view and so on. And and you would say, "Is it going to be there long, darling?" I mean, that's what you'd say, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I once actually had the good fortune to be given one for a holiday when my kids were younger, and I took it and I picked it up in Scotland in Kilmarnock, and I drove it down to the West Country. And what I didn't know was that people who take camper vans places, they're quite big machines, and you're supposed to tow like a small car behind it or a bike or something like that, which I didn't do. So every time we went anywhere, including to the local Tesco's, I had to go in this huge camper van and park it sort of, across about 5 parking spaces away from the shop, as far away as possible. And everywhere we went, people would kind of look at me going, why are you driving down this tiny little lane in this huge camper van? It's not really, you're supposed to sleep in it, not drive it everywhere you go. It's just very funny. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't quite imagine the scene where she wouldn't say something, even if you're estranged inside the same house, that you wouldn't go, those salt and pepper shakers are nice, how much do you pay for those, and why have you bought them?
I think she probably worked out she was living with a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah, I think they both worked that out.
Probably best not to ask.
No, I'm gonna leave you with a summary thought, because we do polls on this show. We try to sort of keep up with the zeitgeist. The poll today, because it's very hot, is what's your favourite iced lolly? And the choices are a Zoom, a Fab, a strawberry Mivvy, or a Twister.
I've never heard of any of them.
Really?
But isn't it? I thought a Twister was a chocolate bar of chocolate.
No, I think it's the sort of the very colourful. Isn't it the very colourful one that's kind of twisted around? Pineapple. Yeah, lime and pineapple, I'm told.
No, never had any of those.
Really?
Oh, no, I haven't had I wasn't allowed iced lollies when I was a child. We were too poor.
Well, not even a 99 when they were 99 pence.
They were not 99 pence when I was a child. 99 pence. You could buy 3 gallons of petrol when I was a child for £1.
Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic.
Petrol was 3 and 6 a gallon.
Yeah, well, listen. Don't
buy 3 gallons of petrol for £1. Do you think my father would let us buy an ice cream for £1?
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely funny. Lord Boylan, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. As ever, good to have you on. And have a lovely day. And good luck with the window cleaners. Our guys are literally here now.
Yeah. Well,
they're literally doing it now.
They're coming back tomorrow now, Mike.
I hope it's not cash only, is it?
It's not cash. I don't know. I'll have to ask them if they've got one of those card readers like the beggars.
Are they VAT registered? That's what you want to ask as well. You know, so you might get a discount from Rachel Reeves, 5% only for this month. There you go.
This month.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
That's the
Window cleaners.
Brilliant. Window cleaners are in.
That's probably my window cleaners you've got around there.
Yeah, they're coming to you next. Don't worry.
All right,
Lord
Mike,
Boylan.
thank you.
I've got a shocking message here, Pooch.
What?
This is from Olivia, right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard of two of the lollies on the poll. Where is the Calippo or the Magnum?
Magnum's not a lolly.
Right, so there you go. Magnum is not a lolly.
Magnum's ice cream. Calippo, well, we can't have 5 options.
But isn't a Magnum an ice cream in the same way that a Mivvy is an ice cream, though?
Maybe the external bit, is
This guy's still
is
going.
lolly based.
It's brilliant. I didn't realise we had window cleaners, to be honest.
There we go.
They take a long time. They were here when we got here, right?
There we go. Look.
There he is. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. You know, live action window cleaning. That is fantastic. We don't even pay. Is that all part of the service, isn't it?
All part of the, yeah.
We don't pay.
£30,000 a month.
Well done, guys. But they were here at 6 o'clock, so they've been here 2.5 hours already, minimum. Right? Very good. Oh, well.
The outside of a Mivvy is lolly.
So, okay, but a Magnum, outside of a Magnum is chocolate.
Yeah, so it's not a lolly.
Okay. He's hard and fast as Pooch. You don't get away with anything. Let's talk to Orla Minahan, who's here, and probably wondering what the hell are these idiots talking about. Orla, very good morning to you.
Let's just get the ice
Well, I'm just thinking about the lollies.
Well, you're gonna have to make a choice there.
I would be a twister.
Okay.
You know what I like? I like those feet. Do you know the strawberry feet?
Strawberry feet, yeah.
Strawberry feet?
Yeah, but that's an ice cream.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I see.
Feet, and they're pink. Oh, they're lovely.
Hang on. I love those always shaped like feet. See, I don't see. I've got a gap in my cultural knowledge of Britain because I went and lived in America for 10 years, and I wonder if that was like in the 80s and 90s maybe.
Don't give my age away, Mike. Don't give my age away. But it was definitely the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. Strawberry feet. It sounds like some kind of complaint that you'd go to the doctor. I've got strawberry feet.
Or something on OnlyFans. But
well, listen, let's not go there, shall we? Oh my God! Listen, you've been in a bit. I'm all right. You've been in a bit of the wars lately, haven't you? Accused by Robert Jenrick of applying for a job and then not taking it or whatever it is. What's going on with that?
No, it was. Look, it was. We've spoken. You and I have spoken for the last 18 months or so about my, my passion for passion's probably the wrong word, but my outrage at what's happening to girls and women and the rape epidemic we have, right? I've been always very open about that. So when I was a Reform candidate and Robert Jenrick joined Reform, I'd already spoken or tried to contact several MPs about writing a policy for the safety of women and girls. And nobody took me up on that, Mike. So when Robert joined Reform from Conservatives, I reached out to him on X and just said, hi, welcome. I've applied to be an MP, but I would really like your help with writing a policy for women and girls. Yeah. That was it. That was simply it. He wrote back and said, yeah, sounds great, very non-committal. And that was it. And then on Sunday, on Monday, I'm in Dover because we're doing a protest in Dover. And somebody contacted me and said he'd leaked my message, which is very odd because it isn't, there's no way in any way detrimental to me. It just confirms my passion about the fact that I think that this is probably the most important policy that any party can write at the moment because it's so out of control what's happening to women and girls in the UK.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple.
I mean, I think, you know what, I think a lot of people are, I'm seeing this anyway, and I know that it's not always, right to judge things from social media, but I think a lot of people are a bit, concerned and maybe disappointed that there's so much bad blood between Restore and Reform, and they want it to stop. It's just like, just stop insulting each other, stop, trying to, do each other in and do each other over. And I don't know who started it, I don't really care. I just think it would be good if everyone just buttoned it for a while,
I absolutely agree. I mean, look, we have got enough of a threat from the left.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, put Labour aside and their absolute incompetence, but then look at Green and the fact that they are a bunch of utter lunatics.
Yeah.
And then mix with that extreme Islam. So they are the enemy. They are the, they are the danger.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely with you on that. And I think that, but what I will say is the constant, you're splitting the vote, the vote. We live in a democracy, and it is everybody's, democratic right to vote for who it is.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm not one of those who thinks that.
To respect that.
Yeah, I totally believe that, and I would never advocate for people to sacrifice their vote, because actually I think in a way it's a kind of cheating. It's kind of cheating democracy in a way, because if it turns out that the right vote gets split and Burnham gets in, then so be it. I mean, Rupert's low view is that it doesn't matter which one of these bozos runs the country; they're all just as bad as each other. And I get that as well. But it would be good. I still think it would be good to teach Keir Starmer a lesson, to get him out and to basically prove that there is life beyond the two-party system. And if Reform is the one chance of that happening, then I think, yes, let's make that happen. But as I say, I just wish it would all just become a lot less sort of toxic, if you like.
Yeah, and do you know what I think is really important as well? There are two individuals. Now, whatever people say about Rob Kenyon, I don't know the man, I've never met the man, I've never met Rebecca, and I will do in a couple of weeks' time. But ultimately, there are two individuals who have stepped forward locally, who have never been in politics before, and it's savage. And I mean, I'm not saying by any means I'm an old hand at this, but the toxicity and the slagging off and the coming after you is really vile. So you have to have you have to have backbone, and you have to have a huge amount of resilience. So for people to step forward and put themselves forward to do a role where they're representing their community, I think people should give them the respect they deserve. And I think that they should be, respectful. They should be, they should look after them rather than completely try and trash them. I think it's so wrong. I really think it's wrong. And I think, you get all these keyboard warriors that sit behind social media giving their two penny worth. But ultimately, have they got the backbone to stand up and say, yes, I will represent my community and I will, do this job, which is not, it's not easy.
Right.
So I think people should just back off and let people, decent, good people, stand up and do the right thing rather than trash them. I think it's absolutely wrong. And I think it's wrong that senior people in senior positions in these parties are getting involved in this nonsense.
But that would include Rupert Lowe as well, wouldn't it? I mean, Rupert Lowe's constantly slagging off people from Reform all the time.
Do you know what? I think everyone just needs to put their big boy pants on, start being mature, stick by their policies, show people what it is that they're going to offer. The nonsense of the past, the sleaze, the corruption, the sexism, all that nonsense has got to be put to the side, because otherwise the country is going to go down the toilet. I mean, it's practically there anyway.
Yeah.
So we do need to just start being adults. This kind of behaviour would never be tolerated in any corporate environment. In any corporate environment in the world, you would be sacked. They would get rid of you if you were a bad apple. Yet politics seems to be rife with it, and it's got to stop, because we've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. Good message there. Was that John Pooch? Can we just have a look at that to finish up? Because I think that probably sums up what we've just been saying. And I think a lot of people feel this way. It's about just get on with the job. Yeah, shut up, kiss and make up, don't wash your dirty linen in public, says John. I think that's good.
There's not many people I'd like to kiss, but I will if I have to.
Yeah, all right. I mean, it's such a sacrifice you'll make. Orla, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Orla Minahan there saying that, it needs to stop. It doesn't. I think it does. Well, we've got a great opportunity actually now because we can talk to Sarah Pochin, who is, of course, our favourite Reform MP. I mean, I can say that, I think, without being slagged off by anybody else, hopefully. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Lovely to be here with you.
Lovely to see you. It is a strange old time, isn't it? Because just as you were sort of almost on the cusp of being in the best place that Reform could ever be, you've suddenly got this kind of slightly annoying situation in in Makerfield, where you've got Rupert Lowe staggering about, sort of, dissing Nigel Farage every second, every chance he gets. Orla Minahan there saying that, she doesn't like the fact that she was, she had one of her personal emails leaked by Robert Jenrick. Don't know if that's what happened. But it's all getting a bit out of hand, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And at the end of the day, it's not representing the people of Makerfield very well, or any voters in the country. People deserve better from their politicians. What they want to know is what the politicians stand for. Let's face it. This has partly come about because the entire nation doesn't know what our Prime Minister stands for, because he U-turns every 5 minutes. And the consequence of the last 18 months of disastrous Labour governance in this country has sort of led us to the point here now where someone like Andy Burnham feels that, the Prime Ministership is rife for the taking, and hence someone stood aside and has given him the opportunity for a run at number 10. But none of that would have happened, if we knew what the Prime Minister stood for, if the Prime Minister had any sort of conviction with his policies and his rhetoric. So, we are where we are. And yes, it's an unsavoury situation, isn't it?
It is, and the worry for me is that the focus is kind of moved away in a way, and I'm conscious of maybe this is only on social media and that's not the real world. I know that, but the sort of the focus seems to have moved away a bit from Keir Starmer and how useless he is and how hopeless the government is and how terribly he's leading the country, because all the focus is on this kind of war of words between restore and reform, and can they manage to beat Andy Burnham? I'm not sure I believe any of the polls at the moment that say Andy Burnham's going to win, because I'm not sure he's as popular as he thinks he is, and as some of the polling is suggesting.
That's right. And, people up here in the north know that Andy Burnham has never been responsible for the growth and the success of Manchester as a city. That was all down to Richard Leese and Howard Bernstein, some time ago. Andy Burnham has just ridden on the back, really, of that, of what was put in place, the building blocks that were put in place some time ago. What actually has Andy Burnham done up here? Look, Manchester City certainly still has a child deprivation rate of 43%. Can you believe that?
That's high,
and yet he's lauding himself as king of the north. Really, you presided over a city with child deprivation at those ridiculous rates, in this day and age. So I certainly don't think Andy Burnham, when you actually dig into what he's achieved, has much to shout about. What he's good at is PR, self-promotion. And yes, of course, he's an incredibly strong candidate because of that, because he knows how to market himself.
Yeah.
But look, there's a few things going on, isn't there? Will the people of Makerfield want to vote for a candidate who's clearly just using them to get to number 10?
Yeah.
He would have happily stood in Bootle or other seats across, whichever one was going to come up, basically. And Josh Simons has stood aside for him here in Makerfield. So the people of Makerfield certainly know that he's not there for them. But, they might just fancy their chances of having the Prime Minister as their Member of Parliament. So they might vote for him. But the point is, in our candidate, we've gone for a local guy, lived there all his life. We've all heard his backstory. And he's a strong, good, committed local candidate. Yes, of course, we could do without any vote on the right of politics being split, because anybody that goes out and votes for Restore will not win, but potentially could enable Andy Burnham to win.
Yeah.
And can they really forgive themselves? You know, I'd turn it around and say anybody that does anything other than vote for reform, you will get Andy Burnham in. And you have to decide whether you can put your own sort of like preferences or whatever it is aside and vote. You must vote for the party, in my view. If you want to see change, if you want to stop Andy Burnham, you have to vote for the party that is most likely to beat him, and that's Reform.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything that you've said. I would not tell people how to vote, but that's your job. You're a politician, and of course you're going to say vote for my party. Why wouldn't you? You know, and I just wish that people would be more understanding of that and not punish you or criticise you for saying, it's not like you're calling for their candidate to step down. You're just saying if you vote for them, there's a risk that Andy Burnham gets in. I think that's perfectly acceptable, perfectly normal thing to say. But why has it become so toxic? Because this is what I worry about, that, you know, the focus is now on restore versus reform instead of how crap is Andy Burnham.
But also, Mike, you know, I do think that sometimes people like you, me, you know, we live and breathe this stuff, don't we? And we all talk about the Westminster bubble and the media obsession with social media tweets and all of this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the people out there on the streets, they care about things like they've just heard this morning that the, you know, energy price cap is going to rise by 13%. Putting family bills up by an average of £18 a month, I heard on Radio 4 this morning. So we assume that's probably not a bad figure to use. But you know, that's what they care about. That's what they're voting for. They're voting because they can't afford anymore to just live and pay their bills without it being a problem. That's what people care about. That's why they want change, and that's why if they in a safe Labour area, which Makerfield is, like where I am here in Runcorn, and you know, I'm in Runcorn at the moment, but this was such a staunch Labour area. But people voted for change, and they got me, and they're getting change, and I think that potentially could happen in Makerfield. And Andy Burnham is no fool. He'll be well aware of the very high risk in this by-election, and what a risk it is to Labour. I mean, golly, if we beat Andy Burnham, his name in somewhere like the Northwest, then gosh, Labour are going to be in absolute chaos and collapse.
Yeah, well, because that's the other two main planks of his position when he launched himself at this. Were one, going back into the European Union, and two, making sure that women's spaces were not actually protected for women, because he believed it was the right of a trans woman to go into a women's toilet. And, you know, he suddenly had to U-turn. I mean, before he even announced his candidacy, he was already U-turning on those two things. And I think people need to be aware, and certainly I presume you guys will be campaigning on this front, you know. They voted up there not to be in the European Union. They voted to leave the European Union in quite strong numbers. I think 60-odd%. So, you know, that's a big deal.
But also, yeah, it was 63%, I think, voted to leave the European Union in Makerfield. And yes, you have Andy Burnham, who we saw, didn't we, on a video only a year ago, quite clearly saying it was in his lifetime he hoped to see us go back in. But also, we've heard, haven't we, that the European Union want us to adopt the euro. That's part of their... that's part of the price of us getting closer to Europe. So the likes of Andy Burnham, Starmer, you know, taking us back into Europe. Oh my goodness, we're now seeing a threat to our own currency, our own pound. So look, Mike, on so many fronts, we have a threat to our language. I talk a lot about, you know, the money wasted on translation services and all of this nonsense. Now we're talking about, we've already seen a threat to flying our flag, our patriotism. Oh my goodness, the British people will not stand for a threat against our currency. And let's face it, if that's the price that Europe want, then oh my goodness, people will not support Labour. No way, if they think that we're going to lose our pound and adopt the euro.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? That it seems as well that, and I've noticed this, like from the big queues that were at Dover on Friday of last week, people trying to get through to France under this new sort of biometric system. It almost seems to me like Starmer's kind of encouraging the EU to be more difficult with people coming from Britain, so that he can go, oh, I'm going to go over to Brussels and do a new deal with the European Union, and I'm going to make it easier for you to get to Europe again. Look what I've done, because we're closer tied to Europe. And it all seems a bit too well organised in a way for it not
It's
to
all very
be
contrived.
Yeah, very contrived. Yeah.
And isn't it? I mean, what do the British people feel when they are sat watching the television, looking at boatloads and boatloads and boatloads of illegal asylum seekers coming over, particularly in this heat wave? So it's quite easy to get out of France, and the French push them over to us, and yet the French won't let decent, normal, hardworking holiday makers, British holiday makers, just get into France to go and enjoy France or wherever they might be going and spend money, of course, in their country. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know at the moment why anybody would even want to go over there, quite frankly, because the French don't deserve our customs as tourists. But just let us in. It is all of a nonsense. It is all contrived. How is it that they can control those borders so stringently when they're keeping they're trying to monitor the English people coming in, but they don't give not a care in the world about sending illegal asylum seekers our way.
No, exactly right.
And actually, Mike, on that point, maybe we should take a leaf out of the French's book and start policing our borders a little bit better.
Yes. Well, I think we could do a lot better because at the moment we're not policing them at all. I mean, 1,000 people came in over the weekend. No doubt there'll be another few hundred today. It's beautiful weather again. Very nice, calm seas. But not everybody thinks Keir Starmer's doing a bad job. This will make you laugh, right? This is the Labour Party chair, a woman called Anna Turley, who thinks he's doing a great job. Have a look.
Well, we are where we are. We've got a by-election now, and it's a really important decision there for the people of Makerfield to choose their next Member of Parliament. They've got a fantastic representative candidate there in Andy Burnham. He's a great guy. He's got a strong track record of delivery, not just in Manchester, but down in Parliament previously as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting out in the next few days to go out and campaign for him. I hope the weather's as good as it is down here today. And it's an important election for the people of Makerfield, and we're looking forward to having another Labour MP back down here in Westminster.
Is it unnecessary?
I think, we are where we are. The reality is Josh Simons has made his decision to step down. It's a shame, it's a disappointment. I thought he was a good representative. And the decision now is for the people of Makerfield. We respect their decision. They have the choice of candidates in front of them. But as I said, it's a really important election, particularly when you look at the candidates. The Reform candidate who is coming out with some horrendous misogyny, sexism, some really vile comments on social media, or you've got someone like Andy Burnham with a terrific track record of delivery, who is a local lad who really cares about the community there and is going to be a brilliant representative for them.
Are you, as chair, ready for potentially, therefore, an upcoming mayoral race for the rest of Greater Manchester to follow?
One step at a time. We'll deal with that when we come to it. The priority now is to get a brilliant Labour MP for Makerfield. And
that's enough. It's enough of that.
So I've never heard of her. That lady.
No. I mean, I don't know when she was appointed. And also, just look, I mean, we like to laud ourselves up a bit here at the Mike Graham Show because we like to have a bit of fun. And they're so serious on Sky. It's like, lighten up, man. Well, you're going to have a mayoral race because that would cost another £4 million to the taxpayer. And I mean, why is it, by the way, that he should surely have to resign as mayor before he can run as an MP? How is that possible?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? It doesn't seem very like he's got much integrity on that front. But, the other reality, Mike, whilst all this is going on and we're talking about all of this, this by-election quite rightly, but all the rest of it, is that other stories are slipping through, stories that people do care about. Like I was listening about the fact that the post office scandal has been delayed. The payments and the settlement for that could be delayed by another 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just come out because apparently they don't have enough, civil servants to process all the claims, and so they need to double the size of the people working on the post office scandal. Oh my goodness, Mike, this has been going on for years. We have let people down. People are dying in the meantime without ever seeing justice. It's an absolute national disgrace, that scandal. And here we are, and of course they're slipping out this sort of news under the radar whilst everyone's talking about the by-election. But the fact is, that the victims of the post office scandal are being let down, and somebody should get in there, get a grip, get some AI software in there, get Palantir in there to sort this, the payments out. And the other point is, of course, the money that they will be paying all of these civil servants, whoever they are, to work on the post office scandal. By the time the bill comes in for that, I guarantee you it'll be far higher than what is owed in compensation to the victims of this national scandal.
Yeah, absolutely right. It is extraordinary, though, how we have this kind of paralysis of government, isn't it? Where nothing is being done really about anything. I mean, I said this last week, you know, if you're Keir Starmer, you're waking up in the morning, you know, thinking, how much longer have I got? I'll just nip down to the kitchen and make myself some coffee. Nobody's talking to him. You know, all of his mates have left. They've all kind of stabbed him in the back, or they all want his job. He's now talking about campaigning for the guy who wants his job. It's all very odd, isn't it?
It is. Interestingly, I thought Keir Starmer gave his best performance yet in PMQs, the last PMQs before the half-term break. So I can't even remember. Was that last week? I lose track of time. But he actually was almost a different person. He was quite funny, quite relaxed, quite natural. I actually, he's either had a personality bypass overnight, but he actually seemed quite a decent and
well, yeah, I mean, Pooch
was
totally taken in by it. He was going, if that had been the way he was from the beginning, people might have liked him. I just think it's an act, because people say that...
I think he switched off. I think he's demob happy. I think he knows he's going, because he will go, whatever happens in this by-election. If Burnham wins, he'll go because Burnham will give him a run for his money and try and get his job. If Burnham loses, then he'll go anyway, because it'll be an absolute collapse of Labour internally. I mean, they're already in meltdown. And look, what's so interesting is we watched, didn't we, 4 or 5 years of the Tories in meltdown, disgraceful, Prime Minister after Prime Minister, totally letting down the country. And Labour going on about how awful it was that they, were fighting internally. And here now, look what we're seeing. And then, of course, we've also heard, haven't we, from Harriet Harman, who's given her view on the next Prime Minister and said it should be a radical feminist. Well,
Wow.
Labour, of course, is a party that's never had a woman as its Prime Minister, whereas the Conservatives obviously have had 3, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, Kemi Badenoch is currently the, leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
But Harriet Harman reckons that they need a radical feminist. So, oh my goodness, can you imagine
isn't it funny?
what that would be like?
Yeah, isn't it funny how they bang on about misogynists all the time, and yet they would appear to be the most misogynistic party in the history of Britain, And Tony Blair's now raised his ugly head as well. Suddenly he's got a couple of ideas, for even he's giving Starmer a kicking,
I'll tell you what's funny about Tony Blair, of course. He's come out, hasn't he, saying, and I'm sure it's to do with the fact that the energy price cap has been raised, announced today, but Tony Blair suddenly decided that we should turn the taps on in the North Sea and start drilling for gas. Well, that would be an interesting conversation to be a fly on the wall if he had that with Ed Miliband, wouldn't it? But of course we should be turning the taps on in the North Sea. Of course we should be drilling for our own gas, because when it comes down to the prices on the forecourts, when it comes down to the prices of our energy bills at home, we would be able to control this if we were energy secure, and we could be energy secure. We have more than enough of our own energy. And as you know, it's something that I speak about all the time, as does Richard Tice and, all of the people from Reform. Our policy would be to make ourselves energy self-sufficient again by using our own resources.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely madness not to. And of course, now that we've had the hot weather, we're getting told by the water companies that we won't have any water soon. I've seen a couple of emails that have been sent out to people in southeastern parts of the country saying, in fact, I'll see if I can bring it up to you here. Basically saying, it's been very hot over the last few days. So basically, we're going to be telling you that water supplies are struggling in your area. It says this weekend saw the first heat wave of the year and hottest May day on record. As expected, demand for water has surged. Yeah, well, that's because they keep telling us to drink it. We had Stella Creasy at the weekend saying, make sure you just keep hydrated, just drink loads and loads of water. So now we're running out. The water network is like a motorway, they say. When everyone uses it all at once, roads come to a standstill.
It's a joke,
I'm not
isn't
sure
it?
that's a very scientific explanation of how the water company should be working.
Well, it's hardly like, you know, we're a country on the equator, you know, with no water like Central Africa, for goodness sake.
Right.
You know, it rains incessantly in this country. How is it possible that we have a water crisis? And of course, the reality, and to be serious about it, and it is a very serious issue, is that there's been masses of underinvestment over the years in our water network, and we all know about the shocking and disgraceful standards that some water companies think is acceptable with regard to the treatment of sewage and polluting rivers, etc. I mean, for a country like ours to have such a shocking water system, it needs massive overhaul, massive investment. But of course, you know, profit is always more important to these companies than actually the product and the service that they're delivering. But, you know, absolute irony that this is a country that it usually rains incessantly, and we're apparently, you know, going to run into water shortages again. Absolutely ridiculous, isn't
I know.
it?
Southern Water, well, is it Southeast Water? No, Southeast Water have said that they're incredibly sorry that there are going to be shortages of water, and that some areas in the Southeast will have to go without water. Well, you're incredibly sorry. Well, that's all right then. As long as you're sorry. I mean, just ridiculous. I've got to finish up with a question for you. We've done a poll today on your favourite ice lolly, because it is that time of year. And I'm already getting, I mean, whenever we do polls, we always get criticised by people for not including certain things. But we've got the poll. Have we got the poll? Well, Pooch is not there. Oh, we haven't. Well, hang on a minute. I've got
I did his. It sounded like he'd fallen off his seat.
So here, no, I think he's gone to get somebody who's just come in. Mark's here, but he can't do anything. What's your favourite ice lolly? Here you go. Zoom, 10%. Fab, 29%. Strawberry Mivy, you might be too young for that, 41%. And a Twister, 20%.
Oh, do I have to choose one of those? If I had to choose one of those, I'd choose the Fab, because I like the like sprinkly bits. I like the sprinkly bits.
Hundreds
but I
and
don't like the
thousands.
red bit. I don't like the red bit.
Okay.
If I was going to choose, I quite like this Feast, because you've got that lovely crunchy chocolatey bit, and then you've got that hard bit in the middle, which is really nice to suck on. You know, that hard bit in the centre. So I quite like a Feast. Or
a Feast.
Yeah, and if I was going to have an ice cream, I'd have a Mr. Whippy. And I do
Mr.
like
Whippy.
a chocolate, like a chocolate flake.
Yeah, I like a 99. Yeah, I do. I mean, people have said things like, people have gone, why is there no Magnum on there? I said, well, because it's not an ice lolly, technically. It's an ice cream, which is not the same thing.
No. Yeah,
well,
I shouldn't have introduced Mr. Whippy into this debate, should I?
You probably shouldn't have. No, that's probably going to be written up now by somebody with a very much more dirty mind than I've got. And what about any tips for keeping cool in the hot weather?
Oh, put ice in your rosé.
Yeah, I do that. I did that yesterday. Yeah, very good idea.
I find that keeps me cool. Yeah, plenty of ice in the rosé. Yeah,
very
you'll
good.
Be fine.
Yeah, excellent. Good stuff. Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Sarah Poachin, have a lovely weekend. I'm saying have a lovely weekend. It's only Wednesday.
I've got a long way to go to my weekend.
Oh yeah, Pooch is asking if you still want the heron. Do you still want the heron?
I still want the heron, Pete.
All right.
I'll come and get it.
Come in. Next time you come in, we'll give you the heron.
Yeah, because I've got real herons eating my fish.
I know.
And I think your heron might deter them.
It might do. It might be like one of those, you know, when you get what do they put out there to front? No, they used to put like pictures of or you could buy lion poo, couldn't you, to put in the garden to stop the cats from coming in, because apparently they're frightened of lions.
Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
that.
Mate.
It's like a decoy scenario. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, all right, Sarah. Listen, well, good to see you. We'll see you soon. Take it easy.
Yeah, bye. Take care.
Sarah, they're giving a different. She said a feast for the ice lolly.
Feast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable?
Oh, she's still there. Sarah, a feast
is
an ice cream, not an ice
I see. The Pooch is very hard line on this. He's not allowing that, apparently. The feast is not allowed.
I've got to go and save the country.
Yeah, go on.
Talk about ice
I
cream.
know. Sorry. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, only on this show, right? Would you get the MPs going? Look, we've got to go. Would you mind not talking to us anymore? Brilliant. Apparently, there's a large fire in Golders Green. Got a bit of breaking news. 100 firefighters on the scene behind the Kosher Kingdom supermarket. That would suggest, without wishing to put words into anybody's mouth, that there might be a problem in terms of arson. If we can get Sarah on Plonk of the Week, she'd be great. That's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, the only problem I think for that is that because she's the Runcorn MP, she's normally in Runcorn on a Thursday. You know, I mean, she's up there today. What was that?
That was that window cleaner.
Oh, yeah. That was the best bit of the show. Mark was here, and you missed it earlier. We had window cleaners.
They're outside.
And so we were able to sort of pivot over and show them live action window cleaning, which was brilliant. The window's lovely and clean now. Shall we do a bit of a meltdown coming up after the news? What do you think?
Let's go to the news.
Because we've got a couple of good clips to play. Yep. Both of them, MPs, Wes Streeting and what's the name, Jess Phillips, basically admitting that when you're in government, you can't do any of the things that you want to do, and you have to pretend that you go along with government policy, even though you might not agree with it, which is a pretty bad situation, isn't it? After all, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. I'm Edward Hughes. Tony war criminal Blair is back. Bless him. Swinging his big intervention stick and telling Keir Starmer that Labour's got no coherent plan and is about to relegate Britain from the Premier League of Nations. Because nothing says helpful like the man who started the 21st century's greatest hits tour, reminding everyone how much better he was. Meanwhile, the country's melting under record May heat for the second day running. Perfect weather for a few tragic drownings and everyone pretending climate is just a fun word. Labour's big promise? Train Wi-Fi that might actually work one day. Groundbreaking stuff. Doctors say social media is as bad for kids as smoking. Shocking. And somewhere in Scotland, more SNP financial drama continues because of course it does. Classic. Laters, tigers.
So, here we are in the midst of the summer heat wave. Things are of course beginning to go wrong. The water companies are saying that they're going to run out of water pretty soon. We're being told to drink a lot of water at the same time. Sadiq Khan's put a load of water fountains out in London as if he's doing something good for the people, which of course is costing us even more money. But I didn't want to talk about that today because what I want to talk about instead is the reality of politics in this country. We're currently watching what's going on up in Makerfield, the by-election, where you've got Andy Burnham, who just fancies being Prime Minister. So he thought, you know what? I'll just persuade some MP or other, some hapless character, maybe this bloke, Josh Simons. He's only been in for a couple of years. He only won the seat in 2024, and he used to be in Labour Together. He's probably, you know, quite a sort of easily persuadable individual. I could use other words. And I'll just say to him, why don't you just get out and give me your seat? I mean, unfortunately, there will have to be an election, but we'll try and make sure that that doesn't really have any interference with my ambition because I want to be Prime Minister. Because I'm really, really good at my job. I'm brilliant as the Mayor of Manchester. I'm fantastic. And politics has been going wrong for 40 years, 35 of which I've been involved in. So I thought I'd show you a couple of clips, right? One is Wes Streeting, and the second one is Jess Phillips. And both of them illustrate, I think, what's wrong with politics in this country. First, have a look at what Wes Streeting's got to say.
Frankly, legislators, regulators have been asleep at the wheel on this. While we want to bring up children in an environment where they can embrace and learn with the world of technology, if we think about some of the traditional values we've had in this country and the way in which we've approached technology in the past, our approach to mobile phones and social media has been akin to basically saying kids need to learn how to use woodwork. Let's give 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds some saws, some nails and hammers and leave them unsupervised and see what happens because they need to learn how to use the tools. We wouldn't do that with traditional tools. We shouldn't do it with modern tools either.
OK, you said there that legislators had been asleep at the wheel, but until just a few weeks ago, you were a key legislator. You were in a position as Health Secretary to have some real influence over this. But at that time, you didn't call for a full ban on social media for under 16s. You said you were thinking about it. You said the issue worried you, but your words were not as strong as they are today. So when did you decide that a full ban was the answer?
Well, liberated from the freedom, liberated from the obligations of collective responsibility, I can say exactly what I think.
That's not very responsible, though, is it, to the people who are calling for a ban?
Anna, if you just let me finish the answer.
Please,
No, Anna, if you let me finish the answer, Sorry, it's hard to engage down the line, but if you let me finish the answer, I'm liberated from the obligations of collective responsibility, which means I can now say publicly what I think. I made the same arguments inside government. I made them at Cabinet. I made them in a number of Cabinet committees and meetings where we were discussing issues surrounding education and well-being, certainly, but also violence against women and girls, where I think, again, we've got serious patterns of grooming, harmful behaviour. I mean, what we heard on your programme early this morning of young people presenting in accident and emergency departments with ligatures because they have been taught how to kill themselves online, and indeed with signs of strangulation and marks on their bodies because they're being told that violence in sex is normal online.
And these things are all important, but
These
Wes
are
Streeting,
all
I do
grounds
need
for
to ask
action.
you the question.
So, liberated from the bounds of government responsibility, and so unable to sort of give your own view, is what Wes Streeting says. So when you're in government, if you're a minister, you can't actually say what you think. That's how the government works. And here's Jess Phillips saying more or less the same thing. All right. Have we got Jess? We could go without. Jess Phillips basically talks about how when Peter Mandelson was appointed, you know, she wasn't very happy about it. But she was in government, so she couldn't say so. But what she did say to Keir Starmer was that she wasn't happy about it, and she turned it into a sort of bargaining chip and said that she got things in return for not resigning. You have got it, okay, have a look.
When Lord Mandelson was announced as UK ambassador to the US, despite the Prime Minister knowing he was a friend of one of the worst paedophiles of the modern age and having had that confirmed by the Cabinet Office, what was your reaction privately?
Oh, look, my reaction privately was, was hurt and upset and anger, and I had to decide whether me shouting my mouth off about that to make myself feel better was the right thing to do, or that I could use that hurt anger to sweat the assets on violence against women and girls to get basically half of what is written in the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy actually written into it. And look, so, you know, never waste a crisis is always my mantra with regard to women and girls strategies and violence against women and girls. But privately, obviously, I was horrified.
So never waste a crisis is basically the attitude in government. Use it to your advantage. Get something out of it. Don't actually do what you are told to do by your own conscience. Don't actually in any way make it clear how you think or what you believe. Don't resign. Turn it into an advantage for your own personal gain. That's what they do. That's why government doesn't work. So that's my meltdown for today. Let's see if we can change it. So, it takes us nicely into the person we're about to speak to now. I'm delighted to say Emma Webber has joined us in the studio. Emma, a very good morning to you.
Hi, it's
welcome
nice
to the
be
Mike
here
Graham
in
Show.
person. Yeah, thank you.
I've spoken to you a couple of times before.
We have.
In the other place,
yes.
It must be said. You, of course, will be known by many people because you've been on TV now quite a lot, talking about your son, Barnaby, and that terrible day in Nottingham in 2023. Listening to what I've just been saying there, you must be finding a very interesting kind of perspective, I suppose, on the way government works, on the way that the public sector works, on the way that it all doesn't work, really.
Yeah.
You know, and there is a pretty good illustration for me of two very senior politicians, Jess Phillips and Wes Streeting, both more or less admitting that when they're in government, they can't say what they think. They can't do anything unless everybody agrees with what they want to do.
I think it's fear, and I think it's fear of stigma, isn't it? And it's, I said the other day about something, I fear that as a state, we're a passive, reactive state, this country now. And there's so much shackling in public office. I was talking to a journalist last night, just generally, we were talking about, it was interesting to get her perspective, and it's very easy to say, well, it's underfunding, it's chronic underfunding on many, many years, this is why this is going wrong, that's going wrong. And actually, do you know what? Having seen what we've seen over the past 3 years, and myself working inside the NHS, I don't think we can tick the box and say it's just chronic underfunding. I think it's chronic misuse of funds. I think it's chronic inability to hold people to account when they don't do their jobs properly, and it's shackling of that freedom to speak and that freedom of professional opinion. You don't have to be contentious, but I do think that you need to be truthful and duty of candour. In the inquiry so far, I think that's been sadly lacking, almost without exception, from every agency.
I mean, do you think there's a culture, and not necessarily malevolent, of sort of just cover up, where nobody wants to admit to have done something wrong? They don't want to admit that they made a mistake. And so they just trying to pretend it didn't happen.
And then what happens is when you are gifted with a statutory public inquiry, which is going back obviously 3 years, which is nearly 3 years to that horror, I would never have expected to be in the situation we're in now and have the knowledge that I've got now. And it's only because of the fight and the tragedy that I can speak with, certainly not authority, but with experience of what we're going through. There is an inability to recognise failure. It's recognise fault, but admit it as well. We had an example yesterday with Nottingham City Council of just, it's a perfect example of how poorly I think these are run by very senior people.
Very well paid people as well.
Hugely well paid. Like last week we were hearing from the Deputy CEO of Nottingham Mental Health Trust, and looked up her, as you do. It was actually a journalist that brought to my attention. I mean, her basic salary is 250,000.
Wow.
And that's a lot of money in the public sector. And I'm not begrudging people getting paid well, but if you get paid well and you're at the top of the tree, then it stands to reason that you're there for a reason. You do your job well, and also if you don't do your job well, then you have to take the hits. And no one's been held to account.
Accountable.
Absolutely.
Right? Should be the first word that everybody thinks of when they take those kinds of jobs.
If you're prepared to take that kind of salary and that kind of level of decision making, you shouldn't be taking the job just looking at your longevity and what your pension's going to be. And I do wonder how many people are just riding it out until they get to that sort of, golden payout. But we heard last week from that one mental health trust from two chief executive officers. One's about to retire, one is a previous, and two chairmen, non-executive chairmen of the board. They are there to govern. They are there to hold to account and to scrutinise the management of the trust and all of the clinicians within it. And not once, I don't think it's even crossed their minds that they in any way need to be held to account for the grievous level of failings that trust directly had in the murder of my son. And it's easy to go for the low-hanging fruit, isn't it? It's easy to go for the people that are working on the front line, but I do think it needs to be at all levels.
Because they've suspended 3 nurses, I understand, right, from Nottinghamshire Healthcare Trust. This is with regard to Valdo Callakane's care, right? The horrible, ghastly, schizophrenic murderer who should never have been walking the streets, as you've said many times. But,
absolutely.
But they've suspended 3 nurses who were supposedly responsible for his care. I don't know whether that's in any way part of the problem, where they're going after the nurses as opposed to who the nurses were maybe supposedly answering to.
I think the irony, there are 3 hospital trusts in Nottingham in total, and 2 I can speak to with authority, of some authority. The Mental Health Trust, no one has been fully held to account for anything yet. And this is the Mental Health Trust that was responsible for the management care of Callakane and the ultimate when they discharged him. So there have been some referrals to the NMC. There have been a couple of referrals to the GMC, but it's only now that we're at the level of scrutiny we're at the inquiry that's being revisited. So no one's been held to account. No one's lost a job, for example. In the other health trust, which is the University Hospital Trust, the Acute Trust, we heard last week that 11 members of staff were sacked. And 14 faced disciplinary action, serious, like disciplinary action, final written warnings. And these are part of the 150 members of staff in that hospital that accessed Barnaby's, Grace and Ian's records once they were in there, once Callaghan had done his worst and killed them.
And what were they doing that for? I mean, that's not clear, is it?
No, well, we know that 150 staff access their records.
Right.
We know that only at the moment 48 are deemed legitimate. So their investigations are being carried out on the other 2/3 that didn't seemingly have legitimate access. They're only midway through that investigation. Last week, the press release from the Hospital Direct stated the numbers I've just given you. It's not concluded yet, but ironically, Mike, you won't be surprised to hear this, that we've got the medical director of that hospital up this morning, first in the stand, giving evidence. And so we've had accountability for what were appalling acts of misconduct by staff. They had no right to look at anything, and God knows what they've done and looked at with Barney.
What they were doing.
It's
horrible, isn't it?
But actually, when we're looking at accountability, we've got doctors and nurses and senior mental health practitioners and hospital managers who mismanaged their departments and Callaghan for years, and not one of them has been held to account yet. But they will be. But it's only because we're at this level of vast exposure under a statutory public inquiry, which cost the public a huge amount of money. Had this not come about, it would never have been found out. And I think that's the true crime in all of this.
Because you don't know how much it's going on, I suppose. It could be,
I think we're the tip of the iceberg. I really do, because we've also had data breaches from Nottingham Police Force, from Nottingham Court staff, from the prison staff, and as we heard yesterday, from council staff. And these are data breaches. This isn't people not doing their jobs properly in managing, arresting, apprehending, treating the murderer. These are staff that are choosing...
Actively doing something.
Actively choosing to access... I mean, we have police members of staff choosing to watch the body-worn footage of Barney and Grace having their treatment in their final moments. That's how bad that is.
That's awful, isn't it?
Isn't it disgusting?
It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people ask me how you've managed to become so brilliant at this campaign of yours, and I mean, I don't know how you do it, honestly. I don't, because I've got children, you know.
Yeah. Okay, is that a question?
Sorry,
it's something that gets asked a lot, and here the other side, my husband's with me today, David, and my son Charlie. But remember that we're a wider group of people. We've got the Kumar family, and we've got the Coates family, and because of this moment in time, I think. It just kept, you know, it was a national tragedy, and it was a national level, and we've made, here he is, we've made so much noise, Mike, but never think that this facade, this fight that's put on, is because I'm a mum and I know so much has gone wrong. But my God, what it's like behind the scenes. It's the darkest days are as dark as you could possibly imagine. And this inquiry, we thought we knew a lot, but what it's revealed is on a scale that's even floored us.
Yeah. Because the thing is, you know, and I think about, you know, Southport as well.
Yeah.
There's always, because I had an interview with a guy called Lord Carlisle, who was in charge of Prevent, you know.
Yes.
And he came on my show and he was like, I said, you know, Prevent isn't worth the name. I said, it doesn't prevent anything. How can you even call it Prevent? You know, you've got a situation here where children were killed brutally by this savage who everybody knew was a potential savage, and yet nothing was done.
No.
And how many more times are we going to have an inquiry, you know, into something that should never have happened? And it seems to be our default position is, oh, I'm sorry it happened, you know, let's have an inquiry and let's see what we can learn lessons from. And it's just,
don't use that phrase.
I'm sorry to say that word, but it's just, you know.
Very much about
it's bollocks.
Yeah, it's just rubbish. And I just wish that we had somebody responsible. And as I say, I was showing those clips of the MPs.
We've met both
where you
of them.
see that they're just plastic cutout figures. They don't believe in anything. They don't really want to help anyone. They don't really want to have responsibility for anything. They're just kind of going through the motions, you know?
Well, I think, you know, you have a relatively short period of time in government, don't you? So what's your window to actually be effective and get stuff done?
Yeah.
18 months, 2 years? But then you've got to start thinking about re-election, and you come in with whatever mess, allegedly or not, the previous government had left you. And it's not working. And what we can't let this inquiry do is we can't let it become another... Look at all the inquiries into things like Hillsborough and Grenfell and the Clunis inquiry. Clunis inquiry 20 years ago. The findings of that from the murder of I can't remember the gentleman's name, but murdered by Clunis, who was mental health. I think paranoid schizophrenic as well. All of the recommendations that came out of that and all of the observations are exactly the same today, and I think that we have to make so much noise at the end of this inquiry, because whilst our chair is doing a wonderful job, and I think she gets it, and the scale of failure is recognised, an inquiry is for recommendations, isn't it? And we have to make sure, wherever we have to chain ourselves, wherever we're saying, or wherever we have to shout and scream, is that by holding people to account, I think that's where proper change might come.
Yeah.
Because it'll make you do your job differently, won't it, right?
Yeah.
If you were about to go and think, oh, I'll just go and have a look at that and be a bit nosy, think, okay, so not only am I going to potentially lose my job on this, but my employers are going to get sued, I'm going to get sued. And I do think it will make that difference. It doesn't have to be sweeping legislation.
But again, all of that is after the fact as well, isn't it? Because obviously what you would have wanted would have been that this man was never let out, that he was a danger to society, that everybody knew he was.
Yeah, and there's this
it wasn't
thing.
like it came as a surprise.
No.
I mean,
You know?
it's
And I mean, not that. I mean, you probably do more than I do, but you know, I walk around London all the time, and I don't know whether the guy walking towards me is a nutcase.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. Or on the tube, you know. But there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of people out there who are dangerous.
I say that all the time, that there are Calicanes out there now. There are many Calicanes out there now, and that's my fear. And I think our mental health, particularly in this country, our mental health aspect and management and infrastructure has failed. And hearing the evidence that we've heard from the majority of psychiatrists, Adrian James, who's the Director of Mental Health for NHS England, I nearly walked out of the inquiry on Thursday. I was so disgusted with his approach, and I have met him as well, because mentally unwell people deserve treatment. They deserve to be cared for. But they also deserve to be recognised when they're a risk and when they're violent.
But we also need
it's
to
not
be
just
protected.
self-harm, it's public health and safety. And there's this inability, particularly in psychiatry, which therefore comes into mental health, obviously, to recognise that. You know, the national inquiry into suicide and self-harm, it's not, it's suicide and homicide.
Yeah.
Two people a week are murdered through mentally ill people.
Yeah.
And that makes up over 10% of the homicides in this country every year. Adrian James last week said it's a very small number that are dangerous and commit these crimes. It's not. If 2 people a week are dying...
It's too many, isn't it?
It's too many.
Well, exactly.
So since Barney was taken from us, 300 people have died?
Yeah.
If you're looking at those stats.
And it's a random kind of thing, right? So it's not...
And it's domestic. Yes, of course, the mentally unwell people, there's a higher risk to domestic crimes and homicide. But that shouldn't be seen as that makes it a bit better. It doesn't. It's unpalatable.
Yeah, right.
1,300 suicides a year is terrible for mentally unwell people. But so are 100+ deaths.
Yes.
And the 250,000 minimum serious assaults.
But there is, and I don't know if you found this with the kind of judicial system as well, that you've got these kind of people who have kind of changed the balance of justice. You know, I was talking to Stephen Barrett this morning, the barrister. You know, the Justice is Blind statue on the top of the Old Bailey, you know, with the scales of justice and all that. It's gone the wrong way. Because suddenly, we were talking about that case of the teenage boys who were done for rape.
Yes.
And the judge said, well, I'm not going to criminalise you.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, well, sorry, you've already criminalised yourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's not really for you to say we shouldn't be sending these people to prison. They're dangerous individuals.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Well, that's
It
just
seems to
out
me
of
that-
touch with society.
Yeah, but I think it
isn't
seems, but people in the judicial system seem to think, oh, well, that's not going to do any good sending them to prison, so we might as well just not bother.
It's like mental health crimes.
Yeah.
The CPS in their policies clearly state that mental health crimes should still, people that commit crimes should still face the judicial system. But actually what we've heard evidence of is the direct opposite. The CPS are very unwilling to prosecute. The police very rarely push it forward because it's mental health, they're not going to get prosecuted. Well, actually, it's proven that if somebody has committed a crime and they have a mental health illness, then actually going through the system, it'll unlock more robust care and treatment of them to prevent it in the future.
Yeah.
And it's fear of stigma again. It's fear of a cost. It's fear of time, isn't it?
Well, it's a reason, isn't it? I mean, mental health. I always remember I've got friends that work in the mental health system, and one of my friends just after this happened to Barney said to me, "Mental health is a reason, not an excuse."
Yeah.
And he said that's the problem. He said in this country we now just seem to have moved to it's an excuse, therefore it's diminished responsibility.
Yeah.
Let's just let them
Yeah,
off because
there's nothing we could have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is what Lord Carlisle said to me about Prevent. He said, well, it works in most cases. I'm like, well, that's not good enough.
No.
I'm sorry, most
Shouldn't
cases
be there if it's only
isn't
most.
good enough.
Most is no, yeah.
in all cases.
Yeah, you should see, particularly the most dangerous individuals should be the ones that you find. You know, you don't worry about the guy who might be, graffitiing, white supremacist nonsense on a wall.
Yeah.
But those are the guys they go after.
It's
this is the guy who's knifing people to death.
Yeah. Look at Callacane, 4 sections. Each of those sections were for violent assault on others, not himself. He was never a risk to himself.
Right. But they said he was, didn't they?
His family have changed their tune now and believe that it was always a risk of suicide to himself. It's in none of the... and even as poor as the records are and as poor as the evidence that's been given is, Mike, he's never been a risk to himself. He's always been a risk to others. At one, which was at the 3rd sectioning, which hospital was it? Where he was given the day's leave, on his own. I can't remember what that's called, unaccompanied leave.
Yeah.
He came back in with a hammer. The hammer was confiscated, and the mild questioning is, why did you have a hammer? Oh, I need to find... Genuinely, this was said in the inquiry. He needed to find accommodation, and therefore the hammer might have been because he wanted to hang some pictures up on the wall. So they confiscated it.
Right.
He was released, a week or so later. They gave him his hammer back when he left. This is somebody who was in there for... I think that was when he had assaulted the police officer during the mental health... warrant, and the police officer ended up in hospital. Callacane had been tasered twice. He had used the handcuffs put on him to bash the police officer around the head. And the decision is, if he brought a hammer in, well, it's his property. We couldn't not let him have his hammer back.
Yeah.
I mean, how we can have people making decisions at that level. This was a doctor.
Yeah.
This was a responsible clinician making that decision and making the assumptions that, well, he said he didn't have, they said he didn't take drugs in the past. They said he didn't, we've seen text messages between him and his brother where he was thinking about red rum, which is murder backwards, if anyone wants a Shining, but it's used in that, the kind of music Callacane was listening to was drill music. Look at his friend Bill Montero up in here in London, who he was with the day before he travelled back to Nottingham. Montero is part of the C-17 Thurrock gang. Yeah. Knives,
because if you
drugs,
read some of the coverage
crime.
at the trial as well, it was kind of like he was this kind of slightly odd, but harmless.
Yeah,
sort of
suddenly,
bit eccentric.
Yeah, smite
kind
it
of how
down with his illness.
So he needed to be treated with sort of kid gloves. It was like he was a monster.
Yeah.
No question, right? Not even close.
Yeah, he had a rucksack full of weapons that he'd been buying for a very long time. He had the names of 3 students in his rucksack that were the students he'd previously assaulted. The addresses and the areas he wandered to on the night in question and morning in question were where he used to live with those students. He went off radar off CCTV for over an hour. He had changed out of his clothes into new clothes. He'd left a Slashinger bag that he'd been carrying somewhere. The police took 3 weeks to ask for the CCTV footage to search the area where the bag had been left. What was in that Slashinger bag? What had he been doing up here in Nottingham? We were told he'd been a sofa surfer and a nomad. by the police officer, Lee Sanders, as senior investigating officer. I saw this witness statement yesterday from his flatmate where he was evicted on the 11th of June because of non-payment of rent. We were told that he didn't have any fixed abode. Why are the police lying to us? Why are they covering stuff up? Why did they not investigate properly? Why did they not fully interrogate and look into what he was doing up here the night before, who he was with? Why did they not find that bag? Why did they not drug test him? Why did they not look into his history properly? I could bore your pants off all day with what's in here. It's like a filing cabinet because it's all gone in, and the failures across every agency is so great and so grievous that it's easy to get lost in it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how do you get past it in a way? I mean, is this everything now in your world? Is this?
I personally don't think I will ever go past it. It's a case of it's how you end up dealing. I mean, at the moment we're sat in this fight, and that's the only way I can describe it, because that's all it is.
Right.
And we'll be in this as long as we have to.
I mean, are you able to do any work? Are you able to do anything else? No.
I've tried to go back to work 3 times, and 3 times I've failed. Work for the NHS, possibly not for much longer, because I always say this to my friends. Our world is so different from everyone else's world now. Our norm is what we've just been talking to you about, and that shouldn't. No one else can understand.
No, cool.
But also there is that resilience of we have Charlie, who's 18 years old. He's doing his A-levels. And for him, for a long time I said, oh, I know he needs me, but I need him as well. And you've said that to me, and you've been so great with...
There's times I don't want him.
Yeah, don't... Oh, he's a pain in the arse.
I know how that feels.
Oh my God, he's an absolute pain in the arse, but he's brilliant, and he's magnificent, and he's like his brother, and all the great traits of Barney we see in Charlie, and they sort of look like each other, and so yeah, that's a reason. We've got each other as a reason, but also Barney, I want him to know that when I shuffle off this mortal coil, that I did everything that I could, because I knew what happened to him was so wrong. Because I can never forgive myself. But I also don't judge other people who don't do this, other parents or other families or other victims, because one, I don't know, I can do it, but two, also we've been given a platform. A lot of people try to have a platform when they're silenced, so we have to use that.
Well, you use it very well, and so thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us for so long. Nice studio.
It's great. Well, the thing is, it's quite posh, isn't it?
Posh, it's posh.
The thing that's good about what we're doing now is we can have the time.
I don't feel rushed.
There's nobody going in your ear. The news coming up, or you've got to take a break. We don't have to do anything. We run it. We own it. Nobody tells us what to do. It's good to own it. Not for much longer though. But anyway, who knows? But listen, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
And
I'm sure people will really send you all the best wishes
Is there any way
that they can.
Do you have pages?
Yeah, do you have...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the inquiry runs until the 5th of June.
Okay.
And that's the last day, but we're back in September for 3 days, 8th, 9th and 10th, where all the actual submissions from all the various legal councils come in. Barney's got a foundation we've set up, which is Barnaby Webber Foundation. But also, I think I don't want to be that, donate money and it'll go to a good cause. If people want to do that, then that would be wonderful. But I actually think the more public discourse we can have, the more noise we can have, the more people hear us. So I know on our X conversations, Twitter conversations, I had 22 people following me when I started beginning the inquiry, because I wanted to use that as the channel to just give a sort of my point of view. I think I've got about 14,000 people now. But I do share my honest points of view on there. So maybe just to share, to make people aware. MPs, we've had no MP from Nottingham come to the inquiry.
Really?
Yeah, our MP in Taunton hasn't. That's again, is it reactive to what they have to do rather than being proactive and go, I was elected to do something?
Well, you'd think they might have taken interest in it.
Yeah.
Given
you would think so.
Given the nature of the inquiry, and also the inquiry looking into the way that Nottingham works in terms of its
Every
public
agency there
sector.
failed. Every agency in Nottingham.
So it is their job, really. They should be there.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do about that.
The thing is, I think as well, people move on, don't they? And I think that's part of the problem that we have in this society now.
Yeah, it's this 24-hour sort of news cycle, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was yesterday. So
I know. That's terrible, that.
That's terrible. Let's deal with that.
Yeah.
And let's make that front and centre so we can stop it happening in the future.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's a bit like, I don't want to make it party political, but it's a bit like when they all stand up and say, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're giving you money off in the summer and you can go to, you know, and it's like, do you not realise what's actually going on around you?
You
know,
said,
nobody's buying it.
Yeah.
We're not buying it from you.
No, and it's like you said the other day, didn't you? And it's a great analogy. You said, why are we fixing the gates when the horses have already bolted?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the house is burnt down.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
fix the gates. But there's nothing behind them.
Yeah, and the horses have gone, so we
Yeah.
can't get them back in. And and it is like that Golders Green, that awful Golders Green attack.
Yeah.
What really angered me was the reaction that came out from people that have big voices, particularly in government. We're standing with the Jewish community.
Yeah, yeah.
We despise anti-Semitism. Actually, that's fine, and we're putting more money out on policing. But look at who perpetrated.
Right.
Look at the perpetrator,
Yeah.
who was a known seriously mentally unwell offender who'd been left out on the streets,
Yeah.
and was allowed to become extreme in his views. He chose the Jewish community. He could have chosen any community, but to me it was far too reactive, and it was to stand and don't stand in solidarity. Go back and fix what's wrong. Look at what's happening, and that irritates me.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's don't just
That's what we've always
grandstand
done,
when you can.
And don't just be surprised, you know, go,
Yeah.
well, you know, there's a pretty good chance that's going to happen again.
And it will happen again.
It will.
It's, you know, I always say it's the definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
It's like, well, actually, you have to change something.
Yeah.
You don't change it at source and say, this has to change here.
Right.
Which is, and that starts with government.
Yeah.
You know, let's put our big boy pants on and actually be a government.
Yeah.
And stop infighting, because I think the public. I heard what you were saying earlier. The public's just had enough.
They have.
You know, it doesn't matter what party you are. It doesn't matter what political
they're all
persuasion
the
is. We're all a bit bored of it now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, when a
actually,
by-election
so much
becomes
to
like
get
a
on
general
with.
election, it says it all, doesn't it?
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the constituencies, I mean, none of us have ever heard of them, but all of a sudden they become, they're trending. I heard a comedian say on something the other night, I can't remember what I was watching, but he said, I thought that was a pop group. It's just like, okay, fine, well, that makes sense, yeah.
I know.
Anyway.
Very strange. Anyway, great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you
and
so
good
much.
luck with it all.
We'll keep following.
we'll
Got
keep
until
in
the
touch.
5th of June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Emma Webber, thank you very much indeed. What are we doing now?
We've got Laura Perrins in.
Oh, we've got Laura Perrins to talk to, haven't we? Yeah, okay. Let's do a bit of that then. Thanks so much, guys.
No problem. Thank you.
Anytime.
Let's go right over to Laura Perrins, who I think will be in Dublin, possibly. Hello, Laura.
Oh, hi, Mike. Hi.
How are you?
A very important interview in the last segment.
Thank you. Who are you?
Yeah, sorry, it went on a bit longer than we planned.
No, I know that. I've been following both
Yes.
families.
I think that it sums up an awful lot of what's wrong.
Well, nice to meet you,
with
Mr.
our
Money
society,
Man.
really, doesn't it? Because
You know what?
of
The thing is,
the
though,
kind of the lack
you
of
need money to do
coordination of
anything,
all
right?
the agencies that are supposed to look after us, that are charged with our public health, our public safety, our public kind of personas, our ability to live in a relatively free way, unmolested. I know you want to talk about the story we mentioned about the kids, the teenage boys who were not sent to prison, who are now having their sentence reviewed, because again the justice system appears to have failed the victims in that case.
Yeah, well, I followed both the Nottingham inquiries. I know there's a lot coming out from them, and it's easy to tune out, but there seems to be a huge amount of missed chances, from both of the defendants in those cases, and the thing is, the consequences of missing something, or the consequences of, I feel, people being motivated by ideology, perhaps, then instead of making a clinical judgment in relation to the person in front of you, is, they're just completely devastated. These are families who are just, they'll never really. You'll never really recover from it. You can move, you can continue putting one foot in front of the other, as Emma does, but you're never the same. Like you, I have 4 children. I can't imagine.
No, it's just horrendous. Really
I
tough.
can't
I mean, it was very
imagine
difficult actually talking to them, because you can't imagine, as you say, what that would be like to go through.
Yeah, yes, yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, Southport have already had an interim report, I believe, and the report clearly said that it could have been prevented.
Yeah.
That there's no doubt, but this happens, as you say, this happens a lot in a lot of public inquiries. The overall report seems to be this could have been prevented. So you're left asking yourself, well, why are these decisions constantly made? And where big chances to stop something terrible happening are missed. I mean, in terms of the rape case that has now been referred by the Attorney General, finally something he can do for being unduly lenient. I work briefly as a criminal defence barrister over there, and even I actually sometimes, I read the reports carefully and consider, is this sort of a media sort of hype? But the idea, these 15-year-old boys who were convicted after trial of a rape would not receive a custodial sentence it's actually scary. And even though they are youth and that is a different system to the way adults are treated, there were a number of really serious aggravating factors in relation to that.
Yeah.
The recording of it, for instance, was seriously aggravating.
Right.
And the other crucial
and not
thing,
just the recording of it was the distribution then of it as well.
Yes.
Because that would be, certainly if you were being charged, well, you'll know better than me as a lawyer, but if you were being charged with, say, for example, some kind of obscene act, the distribution of it is another charge, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's I just think it's just astonishing that a judge would say it doesn't pass the custodial threshold. I mean, it clearly does. The other critical point was, and you probably disagree with me with this, is that I could understand if they didn't run a trial, but they pleaded not guilty and they put the girls through a trial, and that really changes where you start the sentencing from. Whereas if they had said at the beginning, what we did, I plead guilty, what we did was completely wrong,
right.
We want to be rehabilitated, but they didn't do that. They forced a trial, which is genuinely, very traumatic for somebody to have to, a lot of women don't go through trials. They actually, they pull out of it,
right.
Not because it didn't happen, but because it's just too traumatic.
It's too traumatic,
Yeah, they've put the girls through a trial. They've been found guilty, and despite that, it doesn't even pass the custodial threshold. It's been referred to the Court of Appeal. So let's see what happens. And some people will say, oh, well, it shouldn't be dictated by the media. Well, you're not dictating it by the media. Go to the sentencing guidelines, see what's said. And I suspect running a rape trial with the aggravating offences of recording it and distributing it will certainly at least pass the custodial threshold.
It would seem unlikely that there's any other cases where something like this has happened, where a prison sentence hasn't been applied. I wonder whether there's something to do with the age of the boys, something to do with, apparently they're from the travelling community. I don't know whether that's a factor, whether they are considered to be, vulnerable individuals themselves. Clearly the judge took the view, like many people have in this country, strangely, there's no point in sending people like that to prison because they'll just become worse criminals. And you go, well, there is a punishment aspect, surely. It's not just about rehabilitation, and it's not just about making them understand that they did something wrong. It's actually about taking them out of the way so they don't do it to anybody else for a while.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it's also, I presume there was a pre-sentence report. There would always be a pre-sentence report for defendants of this age. So we don't seem to know what was in those. But if there is no acceptance of wrongdoing by these boys, then there's no chance of rehabilitation yet, right? To rehabilitate someone, the very first step is that they must understand what they did was wrong, and they must understand the impact that it has on their victims. So, the judge didn't refer to that in the sentencing, or at least it hasn't been reported. So that would lead me to believe that there was no acceptance of wrongdoing.
Yeah.
So as you say, this is incredibly serious to have people who have committed these very, very serious offences, recorded it, distributed it, and then the judge turns around and said, we should avoid criminalising these children. Well, I mean, this is the other problem, right, is how they're referred to as children. I think they were 15. The girls were 15 and 14. One of the boys was 13 at the time of the attack, and the other two boys were 14. Okay, so they're not adults, clearly, but I think it's wrong. Like, if you said a child to me, I'm thinking 9-year-olds, I'm thinking maybe a 10-year-old.
Right.
But when the judge was dealing with the defendants, it was a constant sort of reading down of the seriousness. We're just dealing with children here, and we're not going to criminalize you. But there was there seems, again, from the reading of it, very little consideration given to, the 14-year-old girls. Well, the two girls, 15 and 14, who were brutally, who were raped in a really, really serious manner.
Right.
The entire focus, I think, seems to have been on the defendants, when there at least has to be some focus on the victims, who will be traumatized by this, and also the message this gives out to other 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds. Well, if you can rape someone, record it, distribute it, and you're not going to go to prison.
Right. Well, this is the thing. I mean, is there, or maybe this is a stupid question. I mean, is there a belief now in the judicial system, because we know that it's kind of jumped somewhat quite significantly to the left, that actually the scales of justice have kind of shifted somehow, that there's now more concern for the perpetrator than the victim, in a sense, that, we must make sure that these poor guys, must be doing this because something terrible's happened to them. They must have had a terrible upbringing, or, looking for an excuse as to why they committed these heinous crimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is... Perhaps, it's hard to speak for the judicial system as a whole. Certainly, when you're dealing with the youth justice system, there is more focus on the defendants than an adult system, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But this kind of, again, a totally disproportionate focus on young offenders who are really objectively dangerous. So in the Southport inquiry, going back to that, again, the chair of that inquiry said that he literally said there was more of a focus on keeping Alex Raducanu from harm, than considering the harm he could inflict on society as a whole.
Yes.
And so that was a finding made, after months and months of looking through the papers and interviewing witnesses.
Yeah.
So again, the focus is on what can this poor guy, if we put a care plan together. He was found on a bus, for instance, with a knife, and he actually admitted that he wanted to do some harm, and I don't think even an arrest was triggered then. And as the chair said in relation to that, if he was arrested, this is just arrested, Mike, then that triggers a whole course of events in terms of, that means the house is searched, so they would have found the weapons, they would have looked at his computer, they would have found all of this, all of the extreme material he was looking at. So when a decision is made as a whole within the criminal justice system, whether it's by a police officer not to initiate or an arrest, whether it's by a CPS lawyer not initiating a charge, what you miss is the chain reaction that a decision to arrest might have occurred, right? And in so you're looking at the fact then Southport may not have happened if he had been arrested at the time. But instead, as the chair himself said, no, the focus was always on, we can't criminalize these guys, we can't effect an arrest, we can't do that. The same with Nottingham. All of when the defendant was in and out of psychiatric care, one of them, an emphasis was put saying, we believe that he shouldn't be detained, and perhaps he's being profiled as an ethnic minority. So you know, there is too much, I think overall, there's too much focus on ideology, you know, a lot of which comes from, and actually can come from America, as opposed to the person right in front of you, you know? So yes, you shouldn't, you know, it used to be that ethnic minorities were over-criminalized, right? Just because they were ethnic minorities. Now, arguably, from at least Nottingham Southport and perhaps this latest trial, the ethnic minority is clouding all other judgment, or at least a clinical judgment or a judgment to arrest, to a disproportionate degree. You know, and this is finding the right balance is really important.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because that's the same as the Valdo Calican case, where, you know, the emphasis was on his damage that he might do to himself, as opposed to, you know, the incredible damage that he was going to do to others. Laura, we're going to leave it there, I'm afraid, because we're at the end of the show. But brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. I'm starting to wish people a happy weekend. I don't know why, because as I say, it's only Wednesday, but there we are. It's been an amazing show today. So thank you to everybody, to all the great guests, Stephen Barrett this morning, Chris Rose, Catherine McBride, Lord Moylan, Orla Minahan, Sarah Pochin, Emma Webber was incredible, and Laura Perrins there. And who?
Dave.
And Dave, of course, as well, yeah. There is the Barnaby Webber Foundation, if you want to check it out any further, would be a good place to start. But as Emma said, they're not necessarily looking for you to give them any money or anything like that, but just support them and give them as much sort of vocal support as you can give them. And for Nottingham MPs not to be turning up to this inquiry is an absolute disgrace, by the way. So we're going to pick up on that, try and make something happen. Yeah, let's do some super chats. Have we got a pooch of the day?
Yeah, we have.
Super chat from Snides. They were giving him the wave from the car, which is not the. It rhymes with anchor. Yeah. Is that from the Andy Burnham? I think that's the Andy Burnham clip, isn't it? Cindy says, Mike, I love your banter. We have the same kind of humour. You make me smile. By the way, I had a late start too. What do you mean a late start? I was only 2 minutes late. I wasn't really late, was I? Mike, when will you be taking calls again? Well, do you know, we were taking some calls when we first got the lines up, but people didn't really get into it in a massive way. So maybe we'll do it again. Yeah, we can certainly try, but in order for that to work well, we need people to ring in and say interesting things, you know? Mike, will Peter Murrell go to a male or female jail? Do you think Jimmy Cranky knew about his antics? Well, I find it hard to believe that she didn't know. No. There certainly seems to be at least one video of her using one of the coffee machines that he bought. I imagine he'll go to a male jail. Mick says, or maybe he's done a deal. Maybe he won't go to jail at all. Although Kelvin yesterday said he was pretty sure he would, because the breach of a trust is such that if you're the chief executive stealing money from the company, effectively, that's where you get the big punishment. Morning Mike says, Mick, Pooch and Charlotte, let's have it right. Cornetto. Happy Wednesday. I don't think Pooch is going to allow a cornetto. That's an ice cream, isn't it? Just the one cornetto, give it to me, a delicious ice cream from Italy. It's amazing how you remember that stuff, isn't it? Anyway, Pooch is Pooch, let's do it. We were singing just one cornetto. Oh, look at this. This is amazing.
I'm just gonna change and I'll be right back out, okay? Okay. Excuse me. Can I shut this?
Teeth. Toofs. That's brilliant.
Luffy, stay. Stay out!
What are you
That's
doing?
brilliant.
What did you do?
You go, drop.
The bottom line is we need to get a dog for protection. Like if someone tried to break into our house, I'd want to make sure that they were immediately terrified.
Sit. Jeez.
They're so funny, aren't they?
This pup does not want to leave.
Ziggy used to do that. He used to take him out for a walk, right? And he would get so far wherever we were going, and he would just lie down. And he'd be like, that's it, I'm done. I'm tired. Found it really funny.
Real quick, did you get the another thing for Ziggy?
The other thing for Ziggy. Oh, do you know, we didn't. But I'll tell you what we did get, which was we've got a knitted heron here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ziggy like that.
Ziggy might like it, actually, yeah. And I've got a little note here with it as well, I think.
Looks like a
Or or could it be a crane, even? It says here, from Caroline, dear Mike, Pooch and Charlotte, please find enclosed a comical-looking heron. I knitted her myself. It is a female, and her name is Sonia. It says so on the pattern, so it must be true. Hard to tell, to be honest. I don't know how you tell it's a female. She's not supposed to stand up, by the way, but sit on her legs. Okay.
Very nice.
It's got a bit of an upright problem. It's a drunk heron. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Thank you, Caroline. Very kind. Listen, great show today. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. Mark, thank you for coming in to see us, and I'll be seeing you a bit later. And I'm going to go home for a nap, I think, before lunch, because I've got a bit of a long afternoon coming up. But I shall see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. sharp, and tomorrow's Thursday, so we're doing Plonk of the Week.
Plonk of the Week tomorrow.
Who are we doing it with, do you know? I don't know if we've got anybody yet, have we?
No, I don't know.
Charlotte hasn't told us. No. We'll have somebody anyway, hopefully somebody interesting. I think we're going to be doing it with Sarah Pochin soon, maybe. Nice. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Don't do anything stupid, and remember, drink loads of water. Don't get dehydrated.
Why don't you relax and be a bit more MG? That would be a triumph.